Almighty God, who in your infinite wisdom and providential goodness has appointed the offices of rulers and councils for the welfare of society and the just government of man, we beseech you to behold with your abundant favor us, your servants, whom you have been pleased to call to the performance of such important trust in this country. Let your blessings descend upon us here in council assembled, and grant that we may, as in your presence, treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful a manner to promote your honor and glory and to advance the interests you have committed to our charge. All which we seek and ask in the name and for the sake of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Amen. Okay, we are back for day 3 of the budget debates. I recognize the Honorable Premier.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Good afternoon, everyone. Madam Speaker, I about to wrap up this session of this 2023-24 budget debate. Madam Speaker, I wish to thank members on this side of the House for their contribution to this year's budget debate. Having amply gave count of their stewardship, the ministries and departments over the past financial year. Madam Speaker, I also want to thank the opposition for their contribution as well. Madam Speaker, I will seek to provide a response to what I consider an opposition political charade. And I will then recap some highlights of the budget. Madam Speaker, on Monday I presented a budget under the theme, Building a Stronger Montserrat Together, a vision forward. And clearly, Madam Speaker, we have identified what we are, and what we have, and what we will do. For the coming year. Madam Speaker, I would have thought that after 3 budget cycles, this opposition would have brought a level of maturity to the debate. But clearly, it's the same old, same old, same old. Providing emotional talks, no substance or ideas, how the budget could serve us better, how it could serve the people better. Any suggestions and recommendations? Nothing, Madam Speaker. Clearly, it's just politics. But this government, Madam Speaker, is concerned about the future of this country, is concerned about people's well-being, and how we can work together as a people, together, to rebuild our country and to rebuild each other. Madam Speaker, as a government, our aim, we have the first step of our journey as a government, Madam Speaker. We have identified 3 main areas of strategic focus. Grow the economy, improve the quality of life, and protect the environment. These, Madam Speaker, we have identified as our key focus as a government. These we see, Madam Speaker, as pillars to grow this country, to build this country. I'm aware, Madam Speaker, that Montserrat does not have all that it takes, and so we must depend and rely on others to provide us with both technical and financial resources to achieve this goal. But the fourth element, Madam Speaker, which flows through the other 3 capacity, capability, and infrastructure. This is, Madam Speaker, the framework that guides the development of an integrated, realistic, and achievable roadmap. In the absence of such, Madam Speaker, to use an old phrase, we simply will be spinning top in mud year after year. After 27 years, Madam Speaker, it was a clear directive, a clear direction, a clear roadmap. I presume that this country would have been further on. This government, Madam Speaker, intends to do just that. We intend to have a structured approach and change the quality of conversation with our stakeholders. And certainly, Madam Speaker, our benefactors and others have seen this already. Madam Speaker, providing emotional talks with no substance and no ideas as to how the budget could help does not help the people we represent. I believe, Madam Speaker, that after 3 years, and we cannot allow the people to forget that this government came into office and, Madam Speaker, we were inducted with, may I call what can be called baptism of fire, a pandemic. And I just want to use a phrase my colleague early yesterday. Lest we forget, Madam Speaker, that we lost 2 years of our time in office due to a pandemic. Had we not lost those 2 years, had we not had a pandemic, Madam Speaker, this country would have been way, way ahead. But even then, Madam Speaker, even then, during the shutdown and other things, we worked tirelessly to keep this country afloat and to keep our people safe and provide for our people. I listened yesterday, Madam Speaker, to my colleagues on the other side of the House. And last night when I got home, I sat and reflected on the contribution made. There are 1 or 2 positives, and I will speak about those later down. But I believe, Madam Speaker, that the opposition is surprised, is shocked that the government is able to deliver such a progressive budget, surpassing any of the previous administrations. And I agree with them, because having not been able to discuss and negotiate so successfully, Madam Speaker, for a new government to boast, and one of my colleagues talk about we selling ourselves. But the thing about it, nobody sells us. They criticize us, so we have to sell ourselves. And yes, Madam Speaker, we have negotiated, and we have benefited from those negotiations. I don't believe that they expect that we'll be here today with this type of budget, a budget of $245 million, an uptake of 30 million pounds for the current budget in terms of contribution budgetary aid from the UK, 30 million pounds. And I will speak to that a little later, Madam Speaker, because, of course, we heard some maths yesterday. At one point, we talk about new maths. I don't know if it's just new maths or what, but we will try to go through those maths and determine whether they're new maths or old maths and how they calculated their figures. Madam Speaker, this budget offers hope. Hope to the people of this country. Hope for the future of this country. Hope to the next generation, Madam Speaker. Hope to public servants. It brings dignity to those lower-level public servants, Madam Speaker, whose salary has been the lowest for years. The opposition did not fix it. But now we have fixed it. The budget brings dignity, Madam Speaker, to the nurses and teachers and their pay grades. The opposition did not see it fit to adjust them, Madam Speaker. Now we have fixed them. And we are giving 3% salary increase across the board to public servants, Madam Speaker, and pensioners. And the opposition is vexed. Vexed because public servants get increased. Vexed because we adjust the lower end of the public servants. Vexed because we adjust the anomalies in the nurses and teachers' packages. Vexed because of that. I thought they would be happy and rejoice with us. I thought they would be rejoicing. Not because they couldn't do it. We have done it. And let us work together. It is us. It's not just us. It's us as a government, us as a parliament, us. Because you'll approve these figures today. And it's us. So rejoice. Let's rejoice together. Madam Speaker, in 2021 budget cycle, the Honorable Hogan stated, "I don't intend to say anything good about the budget." Anybody remember those words? I don't intend to say anything good about the budget. And this is in contrast to another member on that side who understands that the budget is not MCA's budget, it's our budget. And this year, Madam Speaker, I expected nothing more and nothing less. Madam Speaker, yesterday, we all were tortured sitting, listening to the honourable member for 2 hours of a tangled web of words with little substance. That's what we got yesterday afternoon, 2 hours. Repetition and repetition and repetition. He could have finished in half an hour, but he went on for 2 hours, Madam Speaker, to impress maybe the people on Facebook and WhatsApp and oh, we on television? We want TV. So just maybe. Huh? And yeah, just be on TV, so at least he had a place to grandstand, Madam Speaker. And so he took 2 hours. But he could have finished in 1 or half. Never mind. That is the history, that history. Last year, Madam Speaker, the other member referenced my budget, our budget, as an unfinished symphony. And I said to him, I knew what a symphony was. Because I'm a classical person. I love classical music. This year, Madam Speaker, he entitles his presentation, A Colonial Budget. A colonial budget. And I'm trying to figure out what exactly does that mean? And this is the tangled web that I have to go through to try to decipher exactly what the member was saying and trying to say. I note, Madam Speaker, over the past weeks and maybe months, what I term an anti-British sentiment that is perverting the opposition camp. I noticed that, Madam Speaker. And this seems to be because this government is able to attract, acquire significant sums of monies. They are of the view that we are, what the term they use, Madam Speaker, selling out the country to get monies. It's monies we want to build a country. Sell out what country? Sell out who? Madam Speaker, our job is to try and put forward the best case possible so that we can receive the resources required to get the country moving and get Montserrat people moving again and to help our peoples. Madam Speaker, if the reference to colonial budget is because of what we have received or the increase we have received in our budgetary aid for this year, taking up to £30 million. Clearly, Madam Speaker, the budget, all the budget for the past 27 years could have been labeled colonial budget. Because for 27 years, Madam Speaker, 60 or 64% of our total revenue or total recurrent budget, 60 or 64% comes from the UK, from UK aid over the past 27 years. So those two were colonial budget, if that's what the gentleman, honourable member, means. But, Madam Speaker, it is surprising that someone who spends most of his time in the UK, away from this parliament, Madam Speaker, collecting his pay, Madam Speaker, is calling people colonial. And furthermore, Madam Speaker, the people of this country must realize that the individual claims that he has to disclaim himself or separate himself from a monstration because he has to tell people sometimes that he's from St. Kitts. Anybody heard that? Me, a monstration, afraid to tell people become a Montserrat? As a representative. And I'm an elected representative, and I'm telling the people, other people, that I am not from Montserrat, I am from St. Kitts. Come on. And the people voted for you to represent them, and you represent them from England, and then you have no use for them, and then you're talking about this government. Madam Speaker, we appreciate people in the diaspora. They have their role to play. But this is not a diaspora member, somebody who leave the country, who after got elected Madam Speaker, who went away, and every time we come to Parliament, the seat is vacant. Sometimes no apology, nothing, Madam Speaker. But the honourable member is representing the people here. But, Madam Speaker, people will decide at next election. He's saying not campaign, but I know he's campaigning. People will tell him that. You can't represent your constituency from England. You can't represent people. You can't even know what's happening on the ground. Facebook don't give you the full story. Neither WhatsApp. Facebook only is biased sometimes. So what you read is not the true story. That we here to feel the pain of the people on island. You're here to hear the groans as well. That is why we're able to live our budget, because we understand that people have groanings, and we're hearing them, and we are working to fix some of those issues to make life better for our peoples. Madam Speaker, I am a proud Montserratian, and I have nothing against my colleague, my Montserratian comrades who are to go away for a better life. I have no problem, no difficulty whatsoever. Not this one here. This one here got a job. He's working here. other people who left because of circumstances. Yes, I appreciate that. And I still encourage them, Madam Speaker. And I know he borrowed one of my phrases yesterday. I told the people, my diaspora friends across the world, you don't have to come home, left your job and come home. Just remember and invest in Montserrat. I've said it over and over and over again, and I heard it from him yesterday. So thank you for adopting my phrase. Telling the people not to come home if they have to, just invest in Montserrat. The member is ashamed that he's a demonstration. He sometimes tells people I come from St. Kitts. I laughed last night when I went over the script again. I think the member made one statement, positive statement yesterday afternoon. And it's not a positive statement because it's not his statement. The idea that that we are not foreign, I totally agree with him. And I don't know, and he made the point about us being moved from under the FCDO to the Home Office. And of course, in the 2018 Foreign Affairs Committee report, that was said, and there was argument for and against, and nothing happened. So we are where we are. What you have to do is to work with the FCDO the best we can, show them our problems, our issues, and work with them so that they can help us to solve our problems, not to try to create a rift between us and them. So that's not my intention. My intention is to work with them, because the 2017, 2018 Foreign Affairs Committee report, I went through all that, and nothing happened, nothing going to happen. We are still here. But you see, Madam Speaker, I have one, I realize, Madam Speaker, that the honourable gentleman is in the UK. And there is talk about having some OT representative across Whitehall. Y'all hear that? Y'all know about that? I never feel, Madam Speaker, the gentleman is waiting in the wings to become one of the OT's rep across Whitehall, or to become Montserrat rep. To become Montserrat rep. Even in the Port of Montserrat, he wants to be that. So he's hanging, he's playing between Montserrat and England. Just in case, Madam Speaker, we agree that we want to appoint these reps, that he'll be up for it in the UK. You're my cousin. And if you need to come, we might consider it. We might say yes, might. But can you come home and do some work here? Sorry, Madam Speaker. And you come home and do some work here. Because we need him, Madam Speaker. He is Montserrat. But he said no. He's a Kittishon. Maybe I don't know. But, Madam Speaker, the budget uplift, I will explain that a little. I will explain that one, Madam Speaker. Because the gentleman yesterday, Madam Speaker, spoke about 30, when we talk about 30 million pounds, and he said that it's not 30 million, we don't get no big uplift, because it's just about 10%. And depending on his formula, Madam Speaker, but when I quoted the budget, the uplift, I never said we got 25% of our current budget, or the grant aid. I said we got 25% or 6.1 million pounds more. That's what I said. And if you do 6.1 million pounds, it depends on the exchange rate, Madam Speaker. We know that whoever did the math don't quite understand how government works. Madam Speaker, the exchange rate gain, the level of budgetary aid for 2023 fiscal year was 24.1 million pounds. Now, what do you call the base? What do you call it? What do you call it? The FCO provided an uplift, Madam Speaker, uplift over that figure by 6.2 million pounds. 24.1 and 6.2 is 30.3. Madam Speaker, this brings the total budgetary aid contribution for this year from the FCO, Madam Speaker, as 30.32 million pounds, which equates to 25% increase in the level of budgetary aid received. The budgetary aid received, Madam Speaker. This has nothing to do with the exchange rate gains. Absolutely nothing. Remember, talk about exchange rate gain yesterday. Has nothing to do with exchange rate gains. But indeed, Madam Speaker, it is about 10% of, if using EC dollars, or we never quoted EC when it's about 10%, Madam Speaker, based on the exchange rate that we use. This is because the purpose of this budget, Madam Speaker, the rate is fixed at 3.2, not 3.6, not 0.336, as they had it. So the rate is fixed at 3.2. If, Madam Speaker, we now calculate 30.3 million pounds by 3.2, clearly, we're right. 97 million, thereabout, EC dollars. So, Madam Speaker, if the honourable member or whoever helped him to work the matter didn't quite understand how the thing worked, they should have asked. I would have provided with the information that they need, Madam Speaker. Of course, Madam Speaker, if you look at it in the EC equivalent, it's just about 9% increase. But what we don't want to do, Madam Speaker, is to mislead the people by saying that we didn't get 30 million pounds. You know, yes, a little part of the math is right, and that's my church, my people tell me that sometimes. I won't say that. I won't say the piece. You might stop me from saying it. But, Madam Speaker, even though that the exchange rate was 3.2, we expect to benefit, the country expects to benefit from gains on that baseline. If, for instance, Madam Speaker, we were to use the prevailing rate of 3.62, which would equate to 101. So if we had to use 3.62 as the exchange rate for this budget, the equivalent would have been 101 million in EC. But we know the rate from 3.36 to 3.2. I hope that gives it a clarity on the mathematics that you did yesterday afternoon, which wasn't quite correct. The good thing about it, Madam Speaker, if for any reason the pound goes up, the exchange rate moves forward, then clearly the country will benefit, even though it's fixed at that low rate. If it goes up, clearly, and we hope it will, because as someone lives in the UK, you know that the economy is picking up a little bit. So we hope that that will push the pound up a little bit and give us some more. The member spoke about the reciprocal, and this is not to him, the addendum, Madam Speaker, the project funds, and I want to assure them that those funds have not yet been included in this budget. As special allocations must be decided, as usual, what we do in Cabinet, we'll take those funds and assign them to various functions. We know, for instance, Madam Speaker, that we agreed that we will put some towards the hospital and put some towards the Parliament building, but the rest of it, Madam Speaker, will be determined by Cabinet as we go along. I'll come up to one of the areas that he raised a little later, to the uplift in the budget. Madam Speaker, I spoke about the salary scale, which are members, and some of them spoke, more than one member spoke about it, so I will not do them individually. Madam Speaker, as I mentioned in my preamble, we promise the public servants that we'll give them a salary increase this year, and we have kept that commitment. Once this budget is passed, Madam Speaker, clearly government will honor that obligation. We said to Madam Speaker, including in this budget as well, is the fixing of the anomalies between for nurses and the teachers. Over the years, Madam Speaker, these hard-working public servants, nurses who work at night sometimes and all kinds of situations, and teachers who have to teach our children, have been unfairly aligned in terms of the salary scale, aligned to other public servants, Madam Speaker. They were underpaid in truth and in fact. We have now fixed that. So we have aligned them to a rightful position, I hope, Madam Speaker, to make sure that the nurses and teachers are getting the kind of salary that is due them, having this been disadvantage over the years. Additionally, Madam Speaker, we took the bold decision to remove the lower end of the R scale for those hard-working public servants who I consider sometimes undertake the dirtiest part of the work in the public service. The maids, the cleaners, janitors. And we sought, Madam Speaker, to at least bring some dignity to that profession and to give them a little more to work for. And while the honourable member spoke about how much they receive, clearly, Madam Speaker, if you move from one R scale to the next, you might very well come out of the tax bracket you're in. And you may have to pay a little more tax, but it doesn't mean that you're going to pay all what you get in taxes, or even half, even a quarter. It does not mean that. So it means then, Madam Speaker, that these people in the lower income bracket will take home more money than they're taking home now. And mark you, we never said, Madam Speaker, that 17,000 was the minimum scale, minimum wage. We never said that, Madam Speaker. All we said, Madam Speaker, is that nobody should be taking home anything less than $1,700 a month, sorry. No public servant should be taking home anything less than $1,700 a month. So it means, Madam Speaker, that anybody is taking home anything less than that, as when we start paying out, will not. That's what we said. And I think, Madam Speaker, for some, when we move them up, it's about 26% plus a 3%. You can't beat that. You can't say that we're not looking after people. This is what we're doing to help our people. The lowest in the bracket, which some of us don't even care about. But when I see workers waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning to catch a vehicle to go to the hospital, or to go to Golden Years Home, or to go wherever they are, Magnus Memorial. When I see people, Madam Speaker, wake up in the morning to open up buildings and close them in the evenings. These are the people, Madam Speaker, the washers at the hospital, who have to wash all our linen and, exposing themselves. When I look at the daycare center, Madam Speaker, the nursery teachers, who have to babysit our children and teach them at the daycare centers, Madam Speaker, and care for them. And they're being underpaid. I think the opposition should rejoice, should be with us in saying, yes, they deserve it. And we are joining in celebrating. But unfortunately, not all of them are doing that, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, when we start paying, when the Treasury start paying these people, I'm certain that they will say it was long in coming. That is not my money, it's not my doing. Just our conscience tells us that these people have not been dealt with fairly. And the opposition had a chance to do it, But they never did it. I don't know who was in charge, but who didn't help. I think you could recommend it. Even if you was in a position to do it, they recommended it, and I think the numbers would have succeeded. Yes, well, don't talk about that. And they are members of the union as well. Madam Speaker, Honorable Hogan spoke about lack of direction. And clearly, I don't understand what he was referring to. Because we have set strategic goals for this country with just 1 year, good real time. You can see what is happening around here. You can see that there's a plan for this country under this administration. And we are working to bring that plan to fruition. So talk about lack of direction. And sometimes, as I reflect, I guess these are some of the same words that we used to use in 2017. They're playing back at us now. Maybe they went through the radio station and pick up these tapes and play them back. Because clearly when you compare direction, strategy, and direction with now and then, you can't compare. Just cannot compare, Madam Speaker. So I don't know exactly what he meant when he said there's a lack of direction in this country. I just don't understand. I'm not going to talk about everything the member spoke to because some of them are just passing by. But let me touch on the house. He spoke about houses being built. And I know, Madam Speaker, that, and only between him and my other good friend, Minister, who I'm not going to hit hard on because he is not like the others. But in any case, Madam Speaker, I recall that 4 houses were built for 5 years, Madam Speaker, at a tune of $500,000. And when I talk about we give away the country and people taking over, Madam Speaker, these houses were not designed by anybody in Ireland. Madam Speaker, were not supervised by anybody in the country. A man from Barbados came down to supervise those houses, and the steel was set at what, 2 inches? 2 inches apart. That is how, with 2 roofs or 3 roofs, Madam Speaker, that construction was not managed by us in this country. So you talk about local contractors, but they didn't give local contractor the house to design, local designers. Yes, it was built with 2 and 3 roofs. That money, Madam Speaker, could have built at least 7 houses coming today. And the gentleman the honorable member talking about houses and not being built. Madam Speaker, what we got instead, having built those 4 houses, is 2 consultancy in the separate program. One to tell us how to design houses. Madam Speaker, we have been building houses in this country for donkey years. We have a building plan, what do you call the plan? Physical planning. We have been building houses. We know how to build houses, but we ended up with a consultant to tell us how to design houses for Montserrat. We live in a hurricane-proof, in a hurricane zone. We know that climate change is coming, so we know how to design our houses. We build our house after Hurricane Hugo because we understand how to build. But we inherited a consultancy, and at one point I told him I wasn't going to go along with it. But I became like a smart, like Honorable Osborne, and said to them, you know something? I'm going to support it because I will use it as a negotiating tool for the minister to get funds. So the minister spoke about yesterday. That same document, we'll now use it, Madam Speaker, to negotiate housing funding. So it was not all bad after all. The member spoke to a public admin bill, and I'm not clear because in 2014, I'm sure my colleague here would recall that we passed, let's say at the MCAP government at the time, passed a public administration bill. And I think we were waiting on we passed it, and the only thing that was to be done, I think the opposition and the unions were to come together and provide the collective bargaining agreement. We came back to the office, Madam Speaker, and we made another draft public administration bill. So that same bill sat there for 4 years, enacted, without, maybe the regulations, without the agreement. And now, Madam Speaker, I have on my desk a draft copy of another. So it meant that for the 5 years, 2014-2019, nobody looked at that bill. Nobody. And now they're talking about public administration bill. I don't know what they're talking about. Sometimes you see you have to mind what people send to you on WhatsApp and Facebook because they don't have the full story. And you can't sit down in this house here and speak to what people send to you because they send it via WhatsApp because they don't know the story. And we're going to expose them because they do not know, only us. All of us in here know the full story. So we must guard against talking about what people send to us on Facebook while we're in here. Social Security. Both members, the Honorable Hogan and the Honorable Lewis, spoke about the Social Security at length. Madam Speaker, the budget amount for contribution to Social Security last year, and by the way, the actuary did not say we have to. The recommendation was that government inject some funds some cash into the fund for the next 3 cycles. They didn't say we have to. And it was not the first time and the first administration that this recommendation was made to. So how is it the administration before did not put any money in the fund? But we came in and we do what we have to do. Yes, he boasts about what? We do what we have to do, Madam Speaker. And last year, we budgeted $1.8 million for the fund in the first instance. And we paid $1.5 million up front first. because we were going, the budget was going through some ups and downs. And we couldn't commit the full 1.8 until we were sure that we had enough money, because we had to use money for something else. But once we got the additional funding, top up for the lost exchange rate back in the budget, we paid the additional $0.3 million to Social Security. So Social Security got their $1.8 million last year. This year, Madam Speaker, we have in fact allocated so far, another $500,000 for the fund, so far, because I expect that if the budget performs well, that we'll find some more money to tap that up, so far. This is what we talk about progressive, Madam Speaker. And of course, we will continue to see how we can do. Because you see, Madam Speaker, I'm not sure if us in this House understand the plight of some people out there. The reason why some people out there are suffering right now, Madam Speaker, is because some of them decided that while they were working as self-employed or others, they refused to let their deductions come out of their salary. And so when they reach the age of retirement, they realize that there's nothing for them. I want to encourage every self-employed worker now. I want to encourage every other worker now. Pay your Social Security. Yes, it might look as though it's difficult, but pay it, because it will reap dividends down the road. Because when you can't work no more, at least you could go down to Social Security wherever they are and claim your money, your payment, your retirement, your pension. Don't let nobody fool you and tell you that you shouldn't pay it. Because I hear some rhetoric in here about hardship and whatnot. Of course, it's a savings. Social Security fund, Social Security is a savings. When we do our savings, Madam Speaker, it looks hard to take it out and put it one side. But down the road, it's sweet. So I encourage every worker, whether you're self-employed or not, don't fuss. Yes, it might look hard in the first year, the first month, or the second month, but you'll find you're going to adapt to it and become normal. And at the end of the day, at the end of your journey, at the end of the journey when you can't work, you have something to live on. Madam Speaker, this is how we think. This is about caring. If we didn't care, we'd just say, with Social Security, we'd say, let it run, let it do its business when it's course. If it die, die. We could have said that, because that's simply the attitude by the other administration. If it did, it did. We're all right. Once I'm okay, like some people in here, Madam Speaker, once I'm okay, it's fine with me. Everybody else. I won't say what, Madam Speaker. But this is not how this government operates. We are concerned about the individual. And the little man who can't help himself. Because some of us have pension, some of us have savings, some of us have savings in Brazil and Mexico, where they still have them, have money all over the place, they say, Madam Speaker. The little man can't afford it. So we have to protect the interests. And MCAP is known for doing that, Madam Speaker, contrary. Madam Speaker, I just want to remind us that in 2013-14, every non-established worker in public works and in government was made permanent and pensionable by MCAP administration. Because we thought it hard, Madam Speaker, that a public worker was in the sun working from 7 to 3 every day. And at the end of the tenure, Madam Speaker, they get like a shake hand of $4,000 and go home. And that is it, Madam Speaker. And we took the decision, progressive decision, Madam Speaker, to change the rules and to make every non-established worker in government permanent and pensionable. And today, many of them have retired and getting a monthly pension. This is what MCAP does. We don't shy away from making decisions. We make them, when the Madam Speaker, because in the interest of the people. That's what we're elected to do, to make decisions for the people. We make decisions that will improve the lives of individuals. You can't tell me that by making somebody permanent and pensionable is not improving the life of people and caring for people. You can't tell me that. And that is why, Madam Speaker, all public servants who are in the service, non-established workers who are in the service, from 2009 to 2014 and upwards, if once they retire, they get a pension. Some have retired already, others are working still. And that is what we do, Madam Speaker. We care about people. It may not be just, it might be now. It's just a handout. Because, Madam Speaker, you can't just give people a fish today to feed them. You have to think about the future. And that is how we operate. Sometimes we don't get any thanks for it. We don't look thanks for it because we're working on behalf of the people. So, Madam Speaker, that's Social Security. Let me move on again a little bit to the port and the hospital. Because, Madam Speaker, all of a sudden, every tooth man and bag guy become specialists in a port design and hospital design. Everyone now knows that the port design is not fit for purpose. The hospital is not fit for purpose. Everything is not fit for purpose, Madam Speaker. But, Madam Speaker, why should MCAP be held to the head of the hospital now when we left a plan to do hospital when we were in office? And because we lost the election, that plan was left office with us. Left office with us. May I say that? And here we are again, Madam Speaker, working, Madam Speaker, to give the people of Montserrat a facility that will provide them with good health care. A facility, Madam Speaker, which will attract people from overseas. Because one of the problems we have is that a lot of our people, or tourists, or people come here to live, who are not really indigenous, but they like Montserrat coming to live. When they reach a certain age, they sell the property and go back home because we don't have the health care facility on island. And clearly, Madam Speaker, once we have a proper hospital with adequate staffing and adequate services, people will come and stay here. They will want to die here, as a matter of fact, because they love Montserrat. But at the moment, my honorable husband would tell you, if he had a proper hospital with specialists, he may not have to go to Miami or wherever for his regular treatments. It's because we don't have it here. So we are trying to establish that in Ireland. And until we reach in that position where we need the service, we could talk from now until doomsday. But we will not be deterred, Madam Speaker. The port will be built. If 28 million pounds can't build a port, how could 14 million pounds build it? We have added more monies to it, and we have designed it with a possibility of extending 130 meters plus 45 meters. For the 45-meter dolphin is what we're doing. It will serve the purpose in the short to medium term. And of course, generations coming, or the governments coming, would find monies and extend it to take a mega ship, if that's what they want. At the moment, we are facilitating medium-sized, high-end ships. That's what we designed. That's what we designed for. And when the country gets a little more prosperous, or they find somebody who wants to invest in a larger one, if we had, like the one we wanted to build in Casby, then they could always get more monies. But for now, Madam Speaker, the port is on its way. We can see as we drive into Piper's Pond what is happening. We can see what is happening down by the office space down by Little Bay. And hopefully, Madam Speaker, sometime early this year, we should see some work starting in the ocean. Nobody gets what they want at the same time. But, Madam Speaker, you see, what bothers me about this port and the airport, I'm going to talk about access a little later. So let me leave that access thing, that port thing, airport thing for a while. So, Madam Speaker, the port is being built, contract signed, and we never said that we have a design. It's a design built, and we hope to see the final designs sometime shortly. When that is done, we will, I'm certain that the minister and his team will take it to the public, well, maybe to hear something, but I think it's basically going to be done. I don't know about breakwater, building a breakwater. I don't understand what they mean by a breakwater, because if they're saying to me, build a breakwater with the $90 million, build a breakwater first, and then wait until you get some money and build a port, you're defeating the purpose. I believe that what is being constructed, what is being designed and constructed will serve the purpose and give us some safety, reduce our downtime of our cruise ships and our cargo ships and our yachts, and later on, somebody will expand on that. The hospital, Madam Speaker, is similar. It's not fit for purpose. From when some people come, specialists in hospital design. Because you don't allow who to tell you how to build a hospital. Madam Speaker, the Ministry of Health have gone out. We're not doing it on our own. The government is not doing it on its own, Madam Speaker. PAHO, WHO, Public Health England, NHS, you name it. These are all people who understand and know what a hospital should be like. And they have fed into the design of Article 25. They have been consulted time and time again. Locals have been consulted and given a taste of what the design, the preliminary design look like. And of course, the final design will be coming. What we should be concerned about is what service we're going to offer. That is what we're concerned about, not the rooms, whether in fact we're going to offer certain services. And of course, the minister spoke about we're living in a technological age. So you're not going to especially come to Montserrat, a cardiologist to spend 6 months in Montserrat. It's not going to happen. They might come today and go back tomorrow. What we want to have, what we need to have, is the ability to liaise with specialists across the world through, of course, telemedicine. We have fiber optic. And nothing wrong with a doctor sitting in a university in America or in the UK or in Canada and speak to doctors here in the surgery and do the work. That's the age in which we're living. So don't tell me that the hospital is not adequate. How do they judge adequacy of hospital? They haven't seen the design, and they haven't even, if they ask what service we're going to offer, then fine. But I think the Minister Lewis spoke about the staffing, and I totally agree with you. You have to be mindful about the staffing that we choose. And I clearly, I agree with you that we shouldn't just abandon, we can't abandon our local staff. What I would advise them to do is to beef up their skills. So that in next year, 2 years, if they want to get a scholarship to do something, go and do it now. So at least when the hospital is completed, at least they have the requisite skills to do specialist areas at the hospital. That is what they need to do. Because as it is right now, you know what I mean, there are areas that are going to be specialized, and some of our people need to get the additional training required to do that. So I agree with you, but I would encourage them, and I hope you are doing the same thing, for them to go off and do some training to beef up their skills, and come back and work alongside. Because, Madam Speaker, we don't have the experience in Montserrat. Let's be blunt. We operate in a very narrow environment in this country, and so we don't have the exposure. And sometimes we do need that exposure, working alongside others to get that experience. And that is probably what we have to do as well. Send them off to get some experience with somebody, or bring somebody in and work with them so they can do it. So this is where we are going. So I agree with you in terms of that. That's what we need to do. I heard the dialysis machine. We know there's a lot of patients who we need to treat and people who want to come back to Montserrat. But just the word dialysis is not sufficient. You can buy the equipment anywhere. You can buy them. They're cheap. But you have to have the trained staff to deal. You got the facility. Which is what I hope that at least when we build a new hospital, we might have a little space and some trained people to do that, because more and more people are coming down with kidney failures as a result of NDCs and and they're coming down with kidney failures and that kind of thing. I have a foster mother, who died from diabetes. Of course, she got blind, and of course I had the opportunity to go with her to the hospital on several occasions in New York, in Canada, for dialysis, and it's not easy. It's not easy. Three times a week. And of course, Antigua does have, but again, it's the cost. And that is why, Madam Speaker, we are trying to offer as much service as we can here at home, which is what the minister spoke to when he was speaking on his budget, on his presentation, that the CT scan, even the CT scan and the mammogram, I hear some people who should be rejoicing that we're trying to take care of our women and our men in terms of giving them the opportunity to do regular pap smear and mammogram and that kind of thing there. When we get a stroke, Madam Speaker, and Honorable, I don't want to put you on the spot, but you understand what it means to intervene immediately when someone comes with a stroke. How important it is, Madam Speaker, for the first 5 or 10 minutes is critical to save a life or to save somebody's brain when they get a stroke. And this is what the CT scan will help us to do. And of course, we could probably get more equipment. But if we can do this intervention very, very early, we can prevent people from getting paralyzed and kind of thing there. This is what the hospital is all about. And that is why we will continue to focus not only on the building, but on equipment for the hospital. And it's not like before. We're not just building a building, because a building is not a hospital. It's the services that we have to provide. So dialysis machine, yeah, welcome. But at the moment, train somebody. Help us to train somebody. Get somebody trained, who get a Montserrat in the UK, who wants to specialize in it, because I know you live there, so you know them. Get a Montserrat in the UK, who may have some interest in that kind of field. And a couple of years' time, they might want to come home and work for us. And they could even give us some sabbatical, spend some time and go back. But that's where we are. I speak to the minimum wage rates. I'm not going to go through that again. I think the other member did not really say a lot. But I will, for what it's worth, I hope I have responded to a few of the things that you have raised. Okay, Honorable Minister, Honorable Buffon, Honorable, I spoke to salary scale already. Honorable Lewis spoke of, in his very passionate and emotional half an hour, he actually raised a couple of points. It seemed as though coming out of the opposition camp, there is this rhetoric about taking over and whatever it is, but that is fine. He spoke about access and the RESA and a permanent ferry. We have identified some funds in the budget, and just for the information of some other members who don't quite follow the estimates and their advisors who may be helping them prepare. In the estimates, you will see two lines under each year, per past year, the estimated and the actual. The actual is what was spent, what was actually spent. What put in for this year, for instance, on the 2023-24, is the estimated amount to be spent. And what is going to happen, Madam Speaker, is that you put that figure in, but there's a process in Cabinet, in Parliament, where from time to time, we bring a supplementary appropriation to the House to add more funds to different votes. That's a regular feature. And so, but there is $2.3 million thereabout in the budget for access. And of course, access falls on me. Of course, I'm Minister of Finance. And of course, if the request is made and the need arises, and we will find some assistance. But presently, there's $2.3 million, I think, thereabout in the, let me make sure it's 2.3, just that I'm not misleading anybody. 2.3. Yeah, it's pretty 2.3, I think, thereabout in the budget for that. So then there's funds in the budget. For that, he spoke to RESA. I want to just make that RESA thing to rest it once and for all. And if the Honourable Leader of the Opposition is honest with us, he will say to us and Montserratians that the RESA did not, the discussion on the RESA did not emerge last year, September. The RESA was put in, I'm talking about the airport. The RESA was put in place in 2018. Am I correct? Madam Speaker, I'm saying to you gentlemen that 2018, ASI sent ASI in one of their recommendations. ASI. Well, I don't ask ASI recommend, because ASI is the regulator. You tell me that IQ recommend, but I don't you could tell me that ASI recommend, because my understanding is that ASI regulates and says this is what has to be done, and IQ recommends, that's what I understand, but ASI actually says in 2018 that this is what should happen. It didn't happen, it was not enforced, but it's on the books in Montserrat that there's a 30-meter on either ends which should not be used. We understand the technicality, and we could discuss it, and there's some arguments for and against it. However, it's not that we just started yesterday. is that discussion, and to date, it has not been enforced. And I don't want to call going down a certain road, but what have transpired last year was not a mandate to implement or to abide by, but rather to supply some information which created a little stir, and a certain airline decided to pull out. But we could talk about that, because if I ask you to do your recalculation, and you decide, well, I'm not going to do that. Clearly your market is small, they know how bad it does. Clearly your market is small, and if the market is small, and I don't have to go through all the trouble to do that, I'm not going to do it. And they just pull out. But the opportunity is still there. I'm certain that the opportunity is still there for us to have a discussion. And of course, we are, thank you very much. No, on it. Thank you. So, the reason people need to understand that this government did not implement a reason and stop aircraft from flying. As a matter of fact, we have not even written to the individual talk about stopping from flying. Nothing, because so. I don't agree with to that effect. But of course, politics sometimes, people just want to hear the one-sided things. So that's it. And I hope that the minister and the other member on the other side would help the public to understand that this is not a new intervention, that is there, it's on the books, and it's not on, and I don't know what's the next step. Salary increase, I'm not going to talk about it again, I talked about it already. The TC budget, I need to speak to the TC. And Madam Speaker, the only reason why we need this airport big, in this airport thing, you see, we building a port now, and everybody know the port is inadequate. Everybody. But Madam Speaker, when the airport was constructed, a certain gentleman was the manager, the project manager for the airport. Not only was he the project manager, he was also an elected representative at the time. And at least, Madam Speaker, he could have said to his colleagues, well, this airport now serves the purpose. Huh? But he stayed there, encouraged them to build that little airport, and now everybody's saying the airport can't meet the needs of Montserrat. It cannot meet the needs of Montserrat. It cannot. And we do need a new airport. We are limited in terms of land, but I'm hoping, Madam Speaker, that we could try to identify a piece of land. It may not happen now, but it will happen eventually. We do need a new airport. We should not have been where we are. We understand where we are now, that the airport is inadequate, and a certain gentleman on the other side was part of that. But being as it may, we will move on. We will do what we have to do. If we can find adequate lands, well, we could do like what Premier Chief Minister Bradshaw did. Chief Minister Bradshaw in St. Kitts decided he wanted an international airport. And he got a piece of land and he gets a bulldozer and started leveling off. And today, British American, British Airways, Virgin, all them land there now, step by step. So we may have to start doing that ourselves. Rather than talking, let's put our let's put our money where our mouth is and work. Because there are people in this country who have money, I believe, including one on the other side. But you need to spend some on Montserrat. And I call no name. Here's some money, can't get so many money where it is. I spoke to Social Security member, and I hope that satisfies the Honorable Lois as well. I don't subscribe that is creating hardship to people. I know that people are comfortable. A few people met me and said to me, Premier, the first month me hard, but right now, there's not coming money. So I know that the members of Social Security, the workers are comfortable now. Yes, they say, the first month me kind of hard. When I pay the extra $50, $40. But now, we budget for it. That's what we do in life. When we want additional something, the first time we pay, when you get a mortgage, oh my, the first couple of months the mortgage hard. I don't know how you all experience that. First month, when the mortgage come out, hard. But after 6 months and a year, you live on what you have. And people get accustomed to doing that. So Social Security is not a burden. It's a benefit to the individuals who are contributing. And I trust that we continue to do that. So I'm not going to go that word again. Maintenance, legacy, maintenance, government property. It's a nightmare. I understand when I got to the office that there was a document which submitted to DFID, which asked for $20 million, $20 million to repair government buildings. MCAP administration built the Public Works building, MCW building, in 2012-13. We built the Office of the Chief or the Premier around the same time, a little later. We built the MCRS headquarters, same time, 2012, 2013, about. We constructed the Ministry of Agriculture. I started it when I was in office. I break the ground, and I think that was completed under Hogan, I believe, under everyone, I believe. But over that period of time, the Ministry of Agriculture building, I broke the grounds for it. So I know that. So but I'm not claiming it. You cut the ribbon and so I'm not claiming nothing. It's government property, not mine. And like you're saying, the $20 million is yours. But Madam Speaker, since we have constructed those buildings, no repairs, no planned repair, planned maintenance have taken place. And what is going to happen to us, Madam Speaker, is that we're going to spend more on replacing those buildings eventually if we're not careful. And we have made a case, and we're still talking, and the Minister of Commerce and Works is working on a plan, I believe. I think I know that. We can't do all of them at the same time. What I want to see is a schedule of how much billion they could do this year based on the finance that they have. At least we start tackling the maintenance of government assets. This, for instance, now belongs to government. It has been transferred to government. But look at it. Work needs to be done on it. We can't afford to let it fall to pieces. So this too needs some work. And I'm hoping that we could find the money to do some things on it. But we need a plan. We need to find out what needs to be done. But this is what is happening. Our schools, for instance, same thing happened to our schools. Lookout has not been repaired, have not been maintained since we constructed it. The paint's coming off and that kind of thing there. So yes, there is that need. And it's been there since when? But let's not go down that road. TC. I note the energy that has been exerted in terms of the TCs. But Madam Speaker, in 2013, the administration to which I was a part basically got rid of most of the TC positions and tried to recruit people around here like me. And we succeeded in doing that. But somewhere between 2016 and 2017, there was a need to provide some additional skills that were missing. And the intention was good. The intention was to bring in people with those skills and then put alongside them locals to prepare them to take over those positions. That was supposed to be the plan. And if it didn't work, don't blame the TCs. If it didn't work that way, don't blame the TCs. Because they came in with a skill, they had somebody in charge of them. The mandate was that you were supposed to assign somebody to work with them, to understudy them. And after two cycles, they would phase out and your local would take over. Problem I have, don't tell me that a TC comes to Office of the Premier. I'm just using that. He had a few of them already, but never mind. And I am the person who's supposed to be understudying that TC. But I don't have the requisite skill and tenacity and ability to do it. Don't tell me you're going to leave me there when you could find Dr. Sami down the road in another ministry and bring him in to understudy. So when I ask the question about whether, in fact, why are we not having this transition of skills, or the people who's there to understudy is not capable, not suitable, don't tell me that. Rubbish. Rubbish. And that is being said to me. And I said, so where we are in terms of TC program, is not the TC's fault. We have a problem with how we manage the TCs, because they come to work for us, right? And let me just say this too, we must treat them with some respect as well. Yes, they might be getting a little more money than some of us. And I want public servants to get plenty of money. I wish I could pay them more. I wish I could pay them more, to be honest. Because I agree with you, I'm working with you as a TC, and you're getting what I would consider, or we consider big money. But for them, when you calculate it in pounds, and you neighbor, my speaker, you remember next to the honorable leader will tell him, that when you calculate in pounds, it's not much money coming from the UK. And if you have a mortgage in the UK to pay, and you have children going to school up there, and you come out, you have to pay rent and things, it's not a lot of money. We think it's plenty of money, it's not like plenty of money, but it's not a lot of money. But in comparison to what you're paying our public servants, yes, it is. And that is the travesty. That is what we need to correct, if we can. And that is what we need to make a case for an uplift in public service salary. 3% this year, but up further. That is what we need to make now. Not to look at what it is getting, but how can we lift the salary of our own public servants. And I just want to brief the House on the purpose of the TC program, Madam Speaker, because sometimes we get a little emotional about the TC program. And Madam Speaker, some of us have this belief that we cannot work together for the betterment of Montserrat. And I think at the forefront of what we do is for the betterment of Montserrat and its people. And all of us have people go to other countries. All of us go to other countries. Some of us go to other countries to work. And I'll go call my good friend name. But you know, right now I'm sure he's working in England here with somebody else. Right? That's what I hear. I don't know if it's true. He should confess and tell us if it's true, but we don't know. We're talking. We're just talking. I don't know if it's true. But you understand that all of us have the opportunity to work someplace else. And yes, sometimes some environments are harsh, but we should not reciprocate. We should not treat people when they come to us in the same way. Montserrat is known for its hospitality, and it's loving and caring for people. And so we shouldn't be harsh because they're coming from outside. Rather, we should embrace them and work along with them, see how best we could use them, not using that right word, how we could use their skills to build and rebuild this country. We should be able to work together and build a kind of relationship, because networking is critical, even when they live here. If I work under TC and the time is when they go to Uganda or wherever, I have a resource I could call from here and say, can you advise me on X, Y, Z? So not only you work together, you're building network, you're networking, you're building a network that you can harness down the road. So it's not just to see them coming here as workers, but how can we build a relationship so they can advise us, they'll talk to us. The same people who take over the position can then call and say, so-and-so, I have this problem, can we work together? And I'm sure they will. So let's not try to become antagonistic against our TCs. Because they come to us. Yes, I guess some people say they probably would not have gotten what they got in England, but that's not true. When I calculate the salary in pounds, it's not a whole lot of money. Let's be honest. So we see the currency look like plenty. Even US, less than $100,000 in US. Pounds less than 100,000 pounds per year. Not per month, per year. So when they talk about that 250 EC, it's not a month, per year. And some of them might get a little bit more because those jobs that we're talking about for TCs, they're scarce. And the competition sometimes the competition is great to get them, to find them. So when they come here, some of them may be making sacrifice because they like to enjoy the safety of this country, like to enjoy the sunlight and that kind of thing. So they would come and make the sacrifice to come to us. But some of them don't have to come, but they come. They come because some of them come to get experience, of course, and then go back to put in the CV. We understand all that. But let's make the best use of them. As I said, most of us have worked, we are British subjects, we are British, all of us. All of us have British passports. Some might have more than British passport. I know you have to clear it. But all of us have British passport. Most of us, I believe. I have mine. I'm not denying it. I have a British passport. Of course I do. And I have, but we are all, and we are family. Whatever it means. And so those persons out there who are talking about whatever they want to talk about, we can't take away what is there. We are part of that British family. We like it or not. Because we are colony, or we are overseas territory. We don't control our own affairs because we are still a colony. When we want to do everything on our own, then we have the opportunity to come to the people of Montserrat and say, I want to go, do you want to go on your own? Tell me how you're going to find the resources to do it, and let us do it. But you can have your cake and eat it. I'm not saying we must become subservient. Subservient, yes, it would. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying we must not stand up. But I'm saying we cannot want to have our cake and eat it. We cannot want to make all decisions on our own and still be asking the UK to give us this, that, and the other. We can't. If it's their right, you say it's their right we have, yes, I understand you have a right in the convention. But to be honest, the point is, Madam Speaker, the mere fact you have a British passport, you're claiming to be part of the British family. If you don't want to give it back. If I take an American passport, because I say I want to be part of the American family. And so when I take the American passport, I want to be part of the American passport. I'm not going to give up Montserrat because I have a British passport. No. I'm not going to think that I'm inferior to anybody because I have a British passport. No. But I must appreciate that we're part of that. And what we need to do is to make sure we get what we can get. Through proper means, of course, and negotiation and get what you want to get. The point about the TCs, when we talk about the UK, we talk about support. And let's face it, and I will defend myself to the T. We have, at the moment, I preface it by saying, at the moment, we have a capacity gap at the moment. We had it 8 years ago, and that is why the TCs came in. And we have not yet reached the stage where we can do without them. As a matter of fact, I just did some research last night, funny time last night. And when I looked at the budget for the TCs from 2016, the ring fence amount in our budget from 2016 until 2019, 2020, the figures have not changed significantly. Yes, it's $9 million, $8.2 million. I took them out somewhere, have them here. So it has not changed. But neither have we spent all the money every year on TC. Because some of them are not filled. It's difficult to even recruit for some of the positions. Difficult. And then when you recruit, when the recruit process takes place, sometimes what we get can't work. We have to be careful when we spend our monies, what we get. You have to be mindful that we do the best job in recruiting, writing our TORs and selecting our people, selection panel, and people who understand what we're looking for to give us the right people, the right skill that we need. Otherwise, we're going to be spending money on people who are not delivering anything. And it has happened a few times, can happen again. But the budget hasn't changed. The budget has gone up from $9 million in 2015, $8.2 million in 2017, $9.3 million in 2019. That figure, it has been. And every year, I don't think we spend it every year because based on your recruitment process. And of the last couple of years, it has gone down. It has gone down because I think last year was $7 billion, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was $7 million last year. And so it's coming down. And what we are saying is that let locals rise to the challenge. Put them to the TC, and after, by now, we should have locals taking over some of the key positions. But we have a few. I must commend the Ministry of Social Services. I must commend them. I've seen a number of demonstrations who have, since we started the TC program, have trained a number of locals to take over those positions. And I'm pleased with that. That is what we want to see in all the departments and ministries where we have TCs. I think we have about 3 or 4 social workers who have been trained in social services since the TC program started. That was the aim of the project, of the program, and it should continue that way. Let us train people and then gradually phase out the TC program, the TCs. Okay, I'm going to. So I think I've spoke about the TC sufficient. I think I'm talking about separate one. Did I speak about separate one addendum? Did I? I think I did. Yeah? Huh? The Sustainable Development Plan was raised yesterday. Sustainable Development Plan, or the roadmap, whatever you call it, was raised yesterday. And Madam Speaker, I'm pleased to say that after being deferred by the national election in 2019, because that plan should have been 2019, 2018 was the last date, the expiry date for the last SDP, 2018, December 2018. But the election came in 2019, and that was delayed. And we commenced on the consultation work in 2020, and many of us here would recall that some gentlemen and individuals came in and met with us and spoke to us. We had consultation, stakeholders consultation island-wide, politicians, residents, other persons. And of course, this was interrupted in early 2022. But despite the challenges we face, we are pleased to report that stakeholder engagement for the early stage of the consultancy has concluded, and the consultants are in the process of developing an implementation plan. This will follow, Madam Speaker, by the compilation of the plan and public sensitization of the draft plan. So once the draft plan is come to us, we will have that. Madam Speaker, we all agree that the SDP, 2018 SDP was a little bit ambitious. And we are hoping that we can correct that and that we will make it more adaptable to our circumstances and be able to implement it with a clear roadmap as to how we can accomplish and measure the target that we set for ourselves. Good. I'm going to get closer to completing Mr. Honorable Lewis, I think. Instruction as the Social Security. Yes, I think I did. So, Madam Speaker. Honorable Osborne was brief, but to the point, I must admit. He raised just 2 points, I think. 2 points. One is about a proposed business venture. But, Madam Speaker, I just want to say to the honourable member that government don't do business in the corridors of Parliament. So if the honourable member had a proposal, he should have advised the individuals to come to Montserrat, meet with relevant authorities, understand what the procedure is, and we will go from there. But just to meet someone and say they have a number of container of cosmetics, I think, to do business. That's not how we do business. We have to do due diligence. We have to make sure that who we're doing business with, we understand where they're coming from, who they are, what they think. So just to meet somebody on the road and they say they want to come to Montserrat and you tell them to go to St. Martin, you should have at least tell them come to Montserrat and let's have a discussion. Of course, at the time of the discussion that you had with my colleague, and you talk about the Montserrat building, that building was still under, legal discussion. So we couldn't get inside, we couldn't use the building, we couldn't come into ourselves to the building because it was still under the company was still being wound up, whatever it was, and we didn't have access to it. But I'm hoping that next time, because the last thing we want, if people say, I meet somebody on the road and tell them, give me $50,000 in order for them to come to do business in Montserrat. That will happen. So I don't want that to happen. Nobody said that I told them, yes, you could come to Montserrat and do business, but if you give me some money on the side, that will happen under my watch. So that's not the case. So I want to be transparent, I want to be open, above board. I know some people don't like that. Some people feel that you should just do anything anyhow. That's not my style. That's not the style of my team. We operate clearly and squarely. There's standards, there are procedures, and we will. But thank you very much for doing that. And if you find anybody here, just tell them come. We're open for business. We're open for business, Madam Speaker. And we want them to come to Montserrat, yes. But we have to create an environment where people feel comfortable, like TCs and others, comfortable, that they come and do business. I don't think presently that environment exists. we have an environment in which people are scared to come to Montserrat right now. People tell me so. There's a couple who want to settle in Montserrat just about a few months ago. Husband is from another island, the Caribbean. And the couple said, the wife said, let's go to Montserrat. And the husband said, after he heard certain things, they went to their country to build a house. That's the kind of environment we have in this country right now. We have to be mindful that the persons who want to come to us, persons who want to invest, diaspora members want to come home, some of them, and they are scared with some rhetoric that taking place. So let's try and calm and turn a little bit, because I think politically wise, it might look good for us, but in the long term, after the election gone and done, it's the country that suffers, the generation after us, the elders around us, they're the ones who are suffering. So please, let us be mindful of that. He spoke about the Heliconia Star. I will raise that matter. I think it's worthwhile discussing. If there's any element of fear and doubt, minds as to the efficiency of that dinghy, one called dinghy, I think we need to. The point is valid that if there's an emergency and you have to dispatch it, then even at sea, I'm like nervous because even at sea, who the truck working with at sea, it could be dangerous. So we will do that. We'll work on that. I'll take that further and see how best we can work on that. Madam Speaker, I just want to close off with a couple of things. The last thing I want to raise here is it's a matter that is being tossed about, and should I take some blame for it? Maybe I should. Maybe I should. Nobody is perfect, and I've heard a lot of talk, but nobody has spoken to me about it. But I am the kind of person who listens. I've contacted persons, and maybe I have not articulated the position correctly. Maybe I have not. And so it went down differently. It is a matter of the merger of ZJB and GIU. And I know that some politicians love to hear things where they could run with, because it sounds nice in the public ear, rather than calling and say, okay, how can I have a discussion on that? Rather than having that conversation, is that they love it because people are talking about it. People writing on Facebook about it. So they rather than us talking, they went. So let me just say, I may have articulated the wrong message. I think the content is desirable. Desired outcome is what we are looking for, Madam Speaker. The merger of ZJB, the operational and reporting mechanism of each function is what we want to look at. Yeah, let's operate. There are two functions, yes, and we buy that, and we hear that. And that's where I take the blame. I say maybe I didn't articulate the position clearly. And you could go and say on Radio Montserrat on your program that I apologize. But I will come back, I will modify it, the language and return, because we understand that there is need to improve the synergies of the two institutions, the two organizations. We can't deny that. There is room, there's need for that, for us to, both the recording, both Radio Montserrat and GIU. And the whole idea of that is to improve the operations and the quality of service that we deliver, basically. And to ensure that the effective management of the operations on both entities. And we have two entities and they operate separately, yes, on the same building. And there's much more that can be done, much more Radio Montserrat can deliver. Let's put it that way. A number of consultants have been carried out. And so this is not new. I was part of a consultancy where Dr. Babs from Barbados did a consultation, and Radio Montserrat was supposed to be commercialized with a TV station and all that kind of things. Nothing happened. You see, unless somebody take those bold steps, nothing happened. That was so that Radio Montserrat could become an entity to raise some funds on its own with a subsidy from government. It never happened. And other things, other consultancy took place after that, and nothing happened. So if unless somebody raised a controversial matter, it's not going to take place in this country. And I'm glad that it's controversial. And I'm glad that I'm getting some voices. And I'm glad that we will sit down and rethink something and move on. But something has to be done. And let me make it clear. So, Madam Speaker, let me just go back to the budget one more time. We have, in fact, provided or submitted a very progressive budget. A budget which is designed to lay the foundation for development and redevelopment of this country. A budget which we have identified some areas as key for Montserrat. Food security is one of those areas, Madam Speaker. Renewable energy is one of those areas. We have to, Madam Speaker, oh, thank you. I even forget to have water. Thank you very much. I'm going to wrap up in a while. Thank you. I'm going to wrap up shortly. Thank you. We have identified these areas. We have identified access. We have identified, and we have allocated funds to most of these areas. In sports, there's some money under the Ministry of Education for sports, or the Ministry of Youth Affairs. There's money for sports. There's money for access. There's money for. We have some money for maintenance. We have money for salaries. Of course, we have to pay public servants salaries. And you will note, Madam Speaker, that the allocation to salary is about almost 1/3 of the budget. Yeah, almost 1/3 of our current is for salaries, large public service, and we have to be delivering because we have to be able to justify that we are spending monies, value for money, but we have to hire our public servants, we have to pay them, and their pensions and other things. So, Madam Speaker, what we have presented here this week is a budget, 150 million recurrent, 97 million as budget of aid, and 52 million as, sorry, Madam Speaker. 52 million as local revenue, Madam Speaker. So 97 million as British aid, and 52 million as local revenue. We have in fact presented a budget that is larger than last year's own. So we have to do our trumpet, can nobody do it for us. $48 million, Madam Speaker, is for salaries, wages, $223,200, allowances, $8.3 million, benefits, $13.8 million, services, $79 million, and a total of $150 million. What you know, Madam Speaker, unlike previous years, we have not split the votes as, like for instance, services. We have not said agriculture 2%, but that will be done. They know exactly what they're getting already, so that is there. So we have a recurrent budget of $150 million. We have a capital, we're presenting to you a capital to the House, a capital budget of $9,380,200, and some more to come for capital as we go along, Madam Speaker. I can assure you that more funds will come to the House. What we have said, Madam Speaker, is that if you note, Madam Speaker, on the estimates, some funds are reserved on the Ministry of Finance. It is there, Madam Speaker, it's been kept there to ensure that ministries and departments can vie in with projects. But once they submit their business cases, Madam Speaker, then the Ministry of Finance will work with them and release those monies, come back to the Assembly and release additional funds. So even though the capital budget is 95 million, it will go up, I believe, over the year. And of course, the same thing happens to our recurrent. Madam Speaker, over the year we have used some of the reserves, some of money. Sorry, there's one area I slipped, which is very, very important to note, Madam Speaker. Sorry, I'll go back to it when I finish. So, Madam Speaker, so that's where we are. We have not used the time in this budget statement to identify the percentage allocated to each ministry, but it's already in the estimate, which is important. So ministry will know exactly what they're getting. The total budget, Madam Speaker, for this year, this fiscal year 2023-2024, is $245,856,200. Madam Speaker, this is the budget. But I just want to go back to one point in the MOU, because the members raised the MOU. And the MOU, that is Memorandum of Understanding, which is signed by the Finance Secretary every year for the budgetary allocations or whatever funds we get. It's online. I went back online from 2015. They're all online. I was online. And it's a standard document. As Minister said, one thing this year, they took out one element from it, but we added one piece which is important for us. I'm trying to find it here. It has to do with the surplus. There was a time, Madam Speaker, when any surplus at the end of the year, we didn't have the authority to spend it. Of course, Madam Speaker, we're telling members and departments and ministries to plan wisely, spend wisely, but spend. Don't overspend, don't spend it, you know what I mean, getting a value for money, but don't, if you could, make sure you spend your allocation. Project properly, Madam Speaker, because too often, and I've sat alongside the a few times, and how she's putting her hair out to ensure that ministries and departments project. What are you going to spend? How much do you need? How much are you going to, I hear that time and time again. Sometimes I go home, hear it in my ear. Call the ministry, how much? Ministries and departments. Ministers, please, tell your office, your staff members to project and spend. Project and spend. Okay? Don't wait and pile up until the end of the year, because FS didn't tell me this, but what I noticed when I was in the public service, the last quarter is when we spend the bulk of our monies. And of course, every month, every quarter every month or every quarter, every month, FCDO gets a quarter, whatever it is. So they know what we're doing. They know whether we're spending plenty of money in January or plenty of money for the first half of the year and leave the rest, or they know whether they're spending most of the money in March. They know that. So let's not fool, because it's not to our benefit to do that. So let's encourage our staff to spend. I'm looking for a paragraph. Oh, yeah. Madam Speaker, as I said before, previously, any surplus that you had at the end of the financial year had to go into a reserve and determine how you spend it. Still is, I believe, but the unaudited surplus I have here, the unaudited, the good thing is, and if you look through the MOU, it's in the MOU for the first time this year. I'm telling you, come to you. The unaudited surplus realized during the last financial year will be utilized for key priority areas as outlined within our MOU. So we have to identify some areas. So any reserve we have, we could use it. Of course, if it were, we have to use it, but it's not go back nowhere. In our standing reserve for 5 and 6 years, we will use it. We some requests we made, we succeeded in doing that, and we will move forward. That is new for us, and we appreciate that. And of course, AG, FS, and her team, very instrumental in helping us to get this done, and we're thankful. In closing, Madam Speaker, I cannot close, and I know she doesn't like it, but I have to. And of course, I think everybody appreciates the quality of the work that we're getting out of Ministry of Finance. Can't deny that. Starting from the farm through our budget presentation and our finance governor finances. Cannot. And this is due in part. I know she doesn't like it, but I have to say it. In part to the FS, the way she operates, she's stern sometimes, but she gets what she wants done. And I think staff members, the public servants are coming around to understanding that it's for their good. Whatever she's doing is for their good. The Ministry of Finance, the staff down there, they're all one team now. They have a budget director from internal budget director. They have staff members who are trained downstairs locally. This is what we have to do in our ministries and departments. Train our locals among ourselves so that we don't have to bring anybody in. Nobody has to come in finance. And even if FS leave tomorrow morning, my tomorrow morning will be quick. But there's some competency that have been developed over the last a year and a half. Companies have been developed within that ministry. Locals. That's what we need to do. We not think I will be working no white man down there again. Sorry, I changed that. Sorry, sorry, I shouldn't say that. I don't mean that. But Madam Speaker, so FS, thank you very much to the FS and the team. I also want to thank the ministry, my staff in the ministry of the Premier. They have bared with me over time. I could be sometimes a pain. They have. Of course, I said already in my acknowledgement, all public servants. Of course, my family, I have been, sometimes it's a good thing when you have family to go home to. Because when I leave, my colleague Honorable Buffon in the afternoon, I go home. If I don't have somebody to laugh with, I don't mean that. Madam Speaker, it's a good thing you have family. So I want my family appreciate their contribution, Madam Speaker. Those of us who don't have family to go home to, we're sorry for you, because when the politicians get at you, and the constituents get at you, and the radios get at you, and everybody gets at you, and you go home, if you don't have anybody to talk to, your blood pressure goes sky high. Thank God I'm knocking wood. Mine is good, knocking wood, because I have a lovely family. I can talk to them. Because what they feel like, when we go home, we sit down, we talk, and we laugh. That is family, and I appreciate it. And Madam Clerk and Madam Speaker, I bother you over the time. Thank you very much. And all others who have not thanked. My ministers, they know, and the parliamentary secretary, you know how sometimes I'm not easy to deal with. Not in the true sense, but I hold my head sometimes in one direction, and they try to push me, throw them against me sometimes, and we work together. So I thank you all very much for the cooperation we've had, and we'll continue to do so for the good of the people. And this budget is not about us, it's about the people of this country. Madam Speaker, thank you very much.
Okay, before I put the question, I need for ZJB to take us off here for 1 minute. Okay, the came on. It's good.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, yes.
Appropriation Bill 2023.
Okay, we'll now go into committee stage to look at the bill in more details.
Madam Speaker,
Okay, we begin by looking at the
Madam Speaker.
developmental fund votes. Sorry.
Madam Speaker, before we commence the going through, may I just ask the Premier one question on the document we have here? Premier, I know you said that there was because I want to avoid us having friction with finalizing the budget, which we want to support. And I know you said that we have a misunderstanding on the the discussion on moving from baseline support, how much baseline support it is. I think what we need to, where we never had the discussion before, what we needed to clarify why we are talking at cross purposes on this matter and using different figures is whether it is still a goal of the government of Montserrat to graduate from budgetary aid. Our whole position, which we do not think the government is totally opposed to, is that if we have as a goal graduating from budgetary aid, then an equally supporting goal has to be to increase economic activity so that the more people in Montserrat who are employed will then earn a living and be able to contribute their taxes, which basically displaces the need for the budgetary aid. Because budgetary aid is not what we really want. What we want is to collect taxes from working people. So I think that's where we are with regard to the pointers in the budget, that look at what are these investments or these estimates against in the sectors where people should be put to work to allow them to earn a living, make a saving, be able to pay their taxes so that we are reducing budgetary aid. And I think that that is where we seem to, you are also supporting that, but you're also saying it's a great thing to have or to discuss publicly that we are basically having a contracting economy, therefore we are getting more budgetary aid, and this is a good thing. So if we can settle as to what is, that's the whole point about what direction are we taking. It's not that we're saying the whole country is bad. We're in support of the estimates. Our system is sound. We don't have any problems with the data we have gotten. But the policy direction on this question of graduating from budgetary aid and getting 25% more, or is it supposed to be less, and are we putting our people to work or not as a result of this? You need to just clarify what is your balance on this in your mind so that we can just go through this smoothly and not be talking at cross purposes. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Member. Madam Speaker, I don't think that, I think we agree on the same thing. Graduation from budgetary aid is a prime objective of this government. But in the meantime, Madam Speaker, we have to lay the foundation for economic growth. Budgetary aid is basically to support the recurrent expenditures and services that we have to provide to the people of Montserrat, which grows every year. For instance, social welfare programs. So any increase in the budgetary allocation for recurrent budget is not a message saying that we're not focusing on our development, because it is the development project, development aim project, that is going to create that kind of employment, which is going to spin off in taxes, which is going to help us to move from where we are into a into an independent, sort of independent in a loose way, out of budgetary aid. So yes, we are. But what we are saying to the UK right now is that recurrent budget doesn't help us to move forward. And that is why you're seeing consequential growth in our capitals as well, not just getting increase in the recurrent, but also capital. And we expect, as a matter of fact, we have said to them that separate two cannot be the same old, same old. It has to be able to create that kind of leverage talk about jobs, job creation. So the projects must be able to create jobs that we can build. So we say the same thing basically, yes, we have to get an uplift in our recurrent because the demand for services are growing, but we have to also have, on the other side, the capital side, additional injection in funds in capital to create not just bricks and stone, but jobs that would help us move forward. And the infrastructure, of course. Lay that foundation for movement. It won't happen one cycle or two cycles, but that is the direction that we want to go. So yes, I agree with you.
Just a supplementary, Madam Speaker, if you may. So we're in agreement then that actually increasing recurrent budget, depending on what the situation is really a symptom of what we see from the ECCB figures, a contraction in economic activity.
That's not quite so, because if you look at what happened in 2023, 2019, 2020, 2020, 2021, all the Caribbean countries, they contracted. Where they are now in terms of growth is because they're coming back in 2023. And what we hope to see is growth in the economy, and all of them predicted in 2023. So we are expecting to see growth. I don't think it's a contraction.
The contraction is there. The ECC figures say.
I'm not sure if you can use those figures as because what data did they use? I'm not disputing ECC because they're a reputable organization. But presently, one of the problems you have in this country, it's providing the data to substantiate what international agencies are putting out. And until we start collecting that data, what we get, we have to live with it. But I don't think that are quite correct. If data is absent, we use any abstract number and come up with the data. With a figure, that's fine.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'll ask further questions as we go through.
Okay. Madam, I recognize the Financial Secretary.
I can't. I won't speak to the policy bits. The data from ECCB is only actually based on a half year. So it will be updated. They will be working with the Statistics Department to update it in the next few months. I think we were due to have something next week, but they had to postpone it. So yes, we expect to see a revision of the growth rates and GDP estimates based on that. As it relates to budgetary aid, what we've noticed in the past is that we've just been getting enough aid to pay salaries and to operate as usual. Nothing to help to take the country anywhere. So what we're saying, yes, the intent is to wean ourselves off aid, but then there needs to be a big injection of funds to do, for instance, what we now call backlog maintenance, so that things don't fall down around us, so that we're able then to lay that groundwork to go forward and ask for more development funds. We're working, and Premier mentioned it, on a roadmap to growth, which will help us to take it a little further than just doing the usual, coming to work every day and just doing the usual things. So while it is, yes, it sounds like if we're aiming for a bigger recurrent budget, that's not the ultimate goal. I won't speak to policy, that's them. But in terms of the budgeting and the technical side, we need to get rid of, so we can't be asking for aid and then putting all of it into fixing the buildings every year and just trying to just stop a dripping pipe when the flow is getting bigger and bigger. We're trying to deal with that well. Premier and his ministers.
Madam Speaker, may I make an observation? I think I understand the dilemma, but the Premier's roadmap didn't have on any lights. I didn't see the road. But we've seen the road now.
Okay, Honorable, I recognize the Honorable Deputy Premier.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. There's a change that on line 56A, I know I sent the FS that there's a change that the Ministry of Communication Works would like to make on line 56A on the He said development vote.
To change your total?
He's going to change the total. We're adding
So I prefer not.
403,900.
We'll come back to do that, sir. We'll have to come back to do that. Because we'll have to go amend the bill and we have to come back to do that one.
Okay. Okay, we'll continue by going through the lines, and whatever corrections need to happen, the FS will guide me as to how it should be done moving forward. All right? So we're going to look at the developmental votes, starting with vote 12, which has an amount of $180,800. The question is that this amount now stands as part of the schedule. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. I think everybody missed that one. Did anybody say yes? I didn't hear any responses at all. So I'll go again. We start at vote 12. Office of the Deputy Governor with an amount of $180,800. The question is that now that this amount stands as part of the bill. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed nay. And the ayes have it. The amount of $180,800 now stands as part of the bill. We look at vote 15, Office of the Premier, with a developmental amount of $1,487,500. The question is that this amount now stands as part of the schedule. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed nay. The ayes have it. The ayes have it. This amount now stands as part of the bill. We now look at vote 20, the Ministry of Finance, with an amount of $14,338,300. The question is that this amount now stands as part of the bill. All those in favor say aye. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed nay. And the ayes have it. This amount now stands as part of the bill. We'll move on to vote 30, Agriculture, with an amount of $642,900. The question is that this amount stands as part of the bill. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed nay. And the ayes have it. This amount now stands as part of the bill. We'll go on to vote 35, Communications Work, Labor and Energy, with an amount of $46,908,500. The question is that this, do you need me? Yes. There's a question.
Thank you, Madam. Madam Speaker, the same issue that was raised before. The FS is saying that they think it can be done and it can be done now to change the vote for geothermal wellhead maintenance and two other slight changes. Adding to 56A, 403,900. 403,900. Geothermal wellhead maintenance. Madam FS and videos 35 to 235, 235 to 23 to maintenance by 11,000. Okay.
Do we need some? What's that?
sorry. Yeah.
All right, so there's a slight change to vote 35. Communications work and labor. So with an amount of $47,312,400. The question is that this amount now stands as part of the schedule. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed nay. And the ayes have it. This amount now stands as part of the schedule. 4,007,312,400. We'll now move on to vote 40, education, youth affairs and sports, with an amount of $1,750,200. $1,750,200. The question is that this amount now stands as part of the bill. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed nay. And the ayes have it. This figure now stands as part of the bill. Somebody's going to need to give me the total, because it'll change. So
Oh, when you
just after.
finish.
All right, so we go on to the last vote, vote 45, health and social services, with an amount of $30 million. The question is that this amount now stands as part of the bill. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed nay. And the ayes have it. This amount now stands as part of the bill. What's the total?
Sorry, Madam Chair. 95712,100.
All right.
95712,100.
Right. So we've got a total development fund votes in the amount of $95,712,100. The question is that this amount now stands as part of the schedule. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed nay. And the ayes have it. This figure of $95,712,100 now stands as part of the schedule. We're now going to move on to the supply votes. We're going to go through the votes, starting with vote number 5 for the police, which has an amount of $8,503,100. The question is that this amount now stands as part of the schedule. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed nay. And the ayes have it. The ayes have it. This figure now stands as part of the bill. Do we need a little time to figure out something else? Yes? Do we need 5 minutes? Okay, I'm going to ask for us to recess for 5 minutes because I think we still have something that is a little bit unresolved. So we'll recess for about 5 minutes. Yes. All right, so 5-minute recess. Did we get it figured out? Yeah? Not yet? To go back to the developmental vote? Yeah, I suppose. Um, let me speak to Mrs. Baker.
We're ready, thanks.
Am I changing?
The development fund votes, we're going back again. And I have the total for me? Nine five 804 600, and the total is 246 352 600. Ready, Madam Chair.
Okay. FS, you ready? Okay. Somebody has to give me the correct numbers, though. You have a paper? Which? Okay, tell me
So,
before we go back.
Adjust.
Do you know how to write them on a paper and give me?
So, confusion.
Which one am I changing?
So we're changing
To void. I recognize the Honorable Deputy Premier.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I would like to move the motion to void the vote that was just completed on the development fund votes.
I recognize the Honorable Premier.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wish to move a motion, or to second the motion for the avoiding of the previous decision that has been taken on the development fund votes.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded that we void the amount that was voted on for the developmental vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. And the ayes have it. We'll void that decision and we'll go again from the beginning. All right, so we're going to look at the developmental vote again. Yes, they're following. All right, so we're going to go again from the beginning for the developmental votes. There were some changes, and so we're going to start again from vote 12, Office of the Deputy Governor, with an amount of $180,800. The question is that this figure stands as part of the schedule. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. And the ayes have it. This figure now stands as part of the schedule. We move on to vote 15, Office of the Premier, with an amount of $1,487,500. The question is that this figure stands as part of the bill. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. And the ayes have it. This figure now stands as part of the bill. We move on to vote 20, Ministry of Finance, with an amount of $14,338,300. The question is that this figure stands as part of the bill. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. And the ayes have it. This figure now stands as part of the bill. We'll now look at vote 30, the Ministry of Agriculture, with an amount of $735,400. The question is that this figure now stands as part of the bill. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. And the ayes have it. This figure now stands as part of the bill. We'll look at vote 35, Ministry of Communications, Works, Labor and Energy, with an amount of $47,312,400. The question is that this amount now stands as part of the bill. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. And the ayes have it. This figure now stands as part of the bill. We'll look at vote 40, Education, Youth Affairs and Sports, with an amount of $1,750,200. The question is that this figure stands as part of the bill. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. And the ayes have it. This figure now stands as part of the bill. We look at the final vote in the Developmental Fund, vote 45, Health and Social Services with a total amount of $30 million. The question is that this figure stands as part of the bill. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. And the ayes have it. The total development fund vote then stands at a total of $95,804,600. The question is that this figure stands as part of the bill. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. And the ayes have it. This figure now stands as part of the bill. The final figure, $95,804,600. We'll now look at the supply vote, starting with the police. Vote 5, with an amount of $8,503,100. The question is that this total, or this amount, sorry, stands as part of the bill. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. And the ayes have it. This figure now stands as part of the bill. We look at vote 7, legal, with an amount of $1,859,700. The question is that this figure stands as part of the bill. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. And the ayes have it. This figure stands as part of the bill. We go on to vote 8, the Magistrate Court, with an amount of $234,400. The question is that this now stands as part of the bill. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. And the ayes have it. The ayes have it. This figure now stands as part of the bill. Vote 9, the Supreme Court, with an amount of $908,500. The question is that this stands as part of the bill. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. And the ayes have it. The ayes have it. This figure now stands as part of the bill. We'll look at vote 10, legislature, with an amount of $1,610,200. The question is that this figure stands as part of the bill. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. And the ayes have it. This figure now stands as part of the bill. We'll look at vote 11, the Audit Office, with an amount of $1,410,200. The question is that this figure now stands as part of the bill. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. This figure now stands as part of the bill. We'll move on to the Office of the Deputy Governor, vote 12, with an amount of $31,988,400. The question is that this figure stands as part of the bill. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. And the ayes have it. The ayes have it. This
Could you just repeat that figure?
figure, excuse
Could
me,
you repeat the bottom line figure, please?
the figure for the Deputy Governor, $31,988,400. The question is that this figure now stands as part of the bill. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. And the ayes have it. This figure now stands as part of the bill. We'll move on to vote 13, public prosecution, with an amount of $870,500. The question is that this figure stands as part of the bill. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. And the ayes have it. This figure stands as part of the bill. Vote 15, Office of the Premier, with an amount of $12,657,400. The question is that this figure stands as Office of the Premier is on the bill. I'm on the appropriation bill. You should have the copy. Vote 15, Office of the Premier. Do you have a copy of the bill, Honorable Lewis? Okay. Is it not matching? Office of the Premier? 12 million. It might be easier if you look at the bill, because this is what we're going to pass, whatever is on this. You don't have a copy? You sure you don't have a copy of the bill, the appropriation bill? Yes, the cameras are on. Huh? The camera is on. It's on 96. It's on YouTube. It's on Facebook. The cameras. For the appropriation bill, the committee stage is live. It always is. With the money bills, it has to be legally, according to the rules. Even not TV, but it has to. It would be on the radio. Yeah. Not for the money, not for the appropriation bill, for the supplementals, but not for the appropriation bill. Everything goes out. Are we good now? You good? All right, so Office of the Premier, vote 15, with an amount of $12,657,400. The question is that this figure stands as part of the bill. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. And the ayes have it. This figure now stands as part of the bill. Vote 17, Cabinet Secretariat, in an amount of $1,614,600. The question is that this figure stands as part of the bill. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. And the ayes have it. This figure now stands as part of the bill. We'll now look at vote 20, Ministry of Finance and Economic Management, with an amount of $31,739,600. The question is that this figure stands as part of the bill. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. And the ayes have it. This figure now stands as part of the bill. We'll now look at vote 30, Agriculture, with an amount of $6,917,500. The question is that this amount now stands as part of the bill. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. And the ayes have it. This figure now stands as part of the bill. We'll look at vote 35, Ministry of Communications, Works, Labor and Energy.
Madam Speaker,
We have a question.
for vote number 35, I would like to make a change. It's not going to change the overall number, but I want. No? So then, the environment? When I do it now.
Parliament approved the total.
Cabinet?
Yes, the recurrent, you're not changing the total.
Environment, I'm sorry. Good environment,
Tell the chair what you want to do.
Okay, Minister.
To reduce the maintenance 352,232 by 11,000 and to increase 352,283 environmental protection by 11,000. I understand. Reduce 35222 maintenance by 11,000 and increase 35283 environmental protection by 11,000.
So the Act gives this authority to do that change to the minister and the FS, not Parliament, at that level. Parliament approves at the vote level. So once you don't go above the amount in your ceiling, then it doesn't affect at the vote level. Below the vote level, it's not for Parliament. You don't to agree with me.
Okay, so,
The vote is not going to change. The total is not going to change.
okay, so according to the FS, the total amount is not going to be affected here. So it can be dealt with outside of Parliament. So we'll continue with vote 35, Communications Work and Labor, with a total amount of $14,743,500. The question is that this amount stands as part of the bill. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. And the ayes have it. This amount stands as part of the bill. We'll look at vote 40, Education, Youth Affairs and Sports, with an amount of $12,278,600. The question is that this amount stands as part of the bill. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. And the ayes have it. This amount now stands as part of the bill. Vote 45, the final vote in the supply votes. Health and Social Services in an amount of $23,211,800. The question is that this amount now stands as part of the bill. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. And the ayes have it. This figure now stands as part of the bill. The total supply votes then stand of $150,548,000 now stands as part of the schedule. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. And the ayes have it. This total now stands as part of the bill. All right. The total development fund vote of $95,804,600 now stands as part of the schedule. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. And the ayes have it. This now stands as part of the schedule. And this is the summary. The summary supply vote total of $150,548,000 now stands as part of the bill. All those in favor say aye. And the grand total of $246,352,600 now stands as part of the bill. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. And the ayes have it. The grand total of $246,352,600 now stands as part of the bill. The question is that clauses 1 to 6 now stands as part of the bill. All those in favor say aye.
With the changes,
Excuse me?
with the corrections.
Okay. Honorable AG.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, in light of the adjustments that have been made to the schedules, Clause 2 needs to be amended and will now read, "There shall be, and there is hereby granted to His Majesty the King for the service of Montserrat for the year ending on 31 March 2024, the sum of $246,352,600, and the adjustment to the sum represented in figures there, to be issued and applied as authorized in this Act. Clause 3, subsection 2 also requires an amendment and will now read, the sum of $95,804,600 with the requisite adjustment to the representation and figures there is authorized to be issued from the Development Fund and expended as set out in the schedule. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, the question is that clauses 1 to 6 as amended now stands as part of the schedule, the bill, sorry. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. And the ayes have it. The question is that the enacting clause and long title now stands as part of the bill. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. And the ayes have it. The enacting clause and long title now stands as part of the bill. We'll now resume the assembly. I recognize the Honorable Premier.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I wish to report to this Honourable House that the bill entitled Appropriation Act 2023 passed through the committee stage with minor adjustments. And having made the adjustments, Madam Speaker, I so move that we have a third reading on the bill.
It has been moved that the third reading and passing of the Appropriation Bill 2023 be done in this Honourable House. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. And the ayes have it. The bill will be read a third time.
Appropriation Bill 2023.
The Appropriation Bill has successfully passed through the Assembly. I recognize the Honourable Premier. Did I?
Sorry. You asked for votes?
I did.
She said yes. She said she did. Madam Speaker said she did.
That they said that they didn't say aye. I didn't.
They move on. Why did you?
I sure did. Okay, there's some. Okay, there's some question as to if persons responded to aye. So, it has been moved that the third reading of the Appropriation Bill 2023 be read a third time. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. And the ayes have it. The bill will be read a third time.
Appropriation Bill 2023.
The bill has now successfully passed through the Assembly. I recognize the Honourable Minister of Communications and Works.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to move a motion for the second reading of the bill, shortly entitled Geothermal Resources Development Bill. As you know, Madam Speaker, is one of the objectives of government based on the energy policy to try and be 100% renewable by 2030. We also recognize, Madam Speaker, that we have resources in Montserrat that can allow us to achieve such a goal. In order to achieve such a goal, we have to ensure that whatever we do is done in the right way, that we have the right legal framework, that we have the right policies in place on what we are trying to do, and that we put those things in place. So this Geothermal Resource Bill, Madam Speaker, is to put the legal framework in place for anybody that wants to come to Montserrat to use, develop, and use our geothermal resource, which can include using the hot water as is, can also include producing energy what rules and regulations are in place for terms of the environment, in terms of safety, in terms of land acquisition, in terms of who grants permission, in terms of fees, and who controls all of that to ensure that we have the right legal resource in place. Because we're not only looking at, Madam Speaker, at using the wells to produce electricity, but we know that you can also use the wells and the hot water to do other things, like to dry food, to do greenhouses, to do spas and other activities can be used for the hot water separately, and we need rules and regulations on how that would be managed. So the purpose of the bill, Madam Speaker, before us today is just to set up the committee that can get that, will be the one mostly responsible for implementing such things. And the committee, and the purpose of the act, Madam Speaker, is to provide for the economic, orderly, efficient, and responsible development in the public interests of geothermal resources in Montserrat, to secure the observance of safe and efficient practices in the public interest in the development of geothermal resources in Montserrat, to provide for the responsible management of wells, facilities, well sites, and facility sites throughout their life cycles, to manage the development of geothermal resources as between licensees and in relation to the development and conservation of other energy resources in Montserrat, to control pollution and to ensure the protection of the environment and public safety in the development of geothermal resources on Montserrat, to provide for the timely and useful collecting, appraisal, and dissemination of information regarding geothermal resources in Montserrat. And Madam Speaker, the bill has various sections. It comprises of certain clauses. The first clause, Madam Speaker, which I just did, sets out the purpose of the bill. Part 3, which is clause 4 to 17 of the bill, provides some matters such as the establishment of the Geothermal Resource Steering Committee and the function duties of that committee. So a committee will be set up, Madam Speaker, which will involve the permanent secretary of the ministry responsible for energy, the director of energy, the chief physical planner of the physical planning unit, the director of public works, a public officer who is a senior attorney at law nominated by the Attorney General, and a maximum of 2 other persons appointed by the minister being senior technical public officers or other professionals not in the public service with relevant knowledge or expertise. So the first part, Madam Speaker, is to set up this committee, and this committee will be responsible for advising whosoever the Minister of Energy is on matters related to the geothermal resources based on some of the things that I have just read, Madam Speaker. Then part 4 of the bill sets out, collectively provide for the nature, content, and ownership of the geothermal resources. And part 5 of the bill, clauses 21 to 29, provides for the management of geothermal resource development, special geothermal zones, and reconnaissance, exploration, use, and export of geothermal resource. So basically going to set up certain areas in Montserrat which we're going to call geothermal zones. Part 6 of the bill sets up clauses 30 to 35 and provides for such matters as Cabinet's power to allocate geothermal resource by way of a geothermal exploration agreements. Part 7 of the bill sets out clauses 36 to 41, which collectively provide for the procedure, how do you obtain a license to do a geothermal development agreement. Part 8 contains a single clause, which gives Cabinet the power to set fees and royalties. And Part 9 of the bill contains 2 clauses, which provide for the keeping of a registry of all geothermal resource of development plans, special geothermal zones, geothermal resource development applications, and geothermal resource development agreement. And Part 10 of the bill sets out for inspectors and the power of the inspectors and the monetary penalties and other sanctions that can be enacted if certain things are not put in place. And Part 11 provide for the miscellaneous provisions of the bill to include regulation, making powers, and consequential and transitional provisions. So it's basically, Madam Speaker, to ensure that when we go forward, as we are doing now with the development of our geothermal resources, that we have a legal framework so that anybody that wants to do a development understands the requirement and there's not this gray area to advance the policy that governments has set out based on the energy policy, that by 2030 and the different strategies and percentages that we want to be green by, because this government and this administration, Madam Speaker, is serious about transitioning the country to a more safer, cheaper, more affordable and more reliable energy supply, so that we can have industries to come, so that we can set up factories. But in order to do that, we have to put these things in place, and this is one of the steps that this government is doing to ensure that this is in place. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Okay, the House is now open for any debates on the bill. I recognize the Honorable Premier.
I rise to move. Sorry, Madam Speaker. I rise to move a motion to second the bill entitled Geothermal Resource Development Bill 2023.
Second the motion.
Second motion, sorry. Second motion. Sorry, Madam. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
Anybody wants to talk can.
Sorry, Madam Speaker, while I'm on my feet, Madam Speaker, I rise to support the bill. I think any one of us in this House understand that we must have a legal framework to avoid any misconception, any misunderstanding, if and when an investor comes into the island, that those individuals need to be clear as to what is available, how do we manage, who do they speak to, this sort of thing. So I think the bill in its entirety laid out the framework, Madam Speaker, which is suitable for us to advance to the next stage. There can be no gray areas. There will be no gray areas when somebody is interested in geothermal, developing geothermal resource comes to the island. And of course, they will be online, they will read this before they get here. So that at least, I'm pleased that a committee will be set up, especially, Madam Speaker, to guide the work of the geothermal development exploration bill. It is important, Madam Speaker, that this be in place. And I'm certain that as we go along, investors will be comfortable to know that, yes, there's a resource, but there's a structure in place and as to how to manage and who is responsible for what and who pays what, who does what. So I very much support the bill. It's fairly large but pretty simple. And I think we have gone through this already in our own groupings, and we have basically given sanction to it. So I just rise to support the bill, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
I recognize the Honorable Minister of Education.
Madam Speaker, I rise to support this bill, the Geothermal Resources Development Bill. The Minister has already outlined the different parts, but I just want to zero in on geothermal resources and on the content, what it means, because the nature of it is a geothermal sources sui generis property, and the rules relating to it, including the creation, acquisition, transfer, exercise, termination of rights respecting it, are set out in the Act. For the avoidance of doubt, a geothermal resource is not a mineral, nor a water resource, nor a real property. And I saw that and I wondered what it means, really, not a real property. But because I don't know what you can call steam and all that, so that's basically what it is. Under the content, it goes on to say a geothermal resource comprises geothermal energy and includes all products of geothermal processes, embracing indigenous steam, hot water, and hot brines, steam and other gases, hot water and hot brines resulting from water, gas, or other fluids artificially introduced into geothermal formation, heat or associated energy found in geothermal formation, and any byproducts derived from the product set out under the paragraphs A, B, and C. I think that qualifies what it is, just to give us an idea of what we're talking. When we say geothermal, it's just not the steam, but it have all these other factors to go with it. And as the Minister alluded to, apart from the steam that one can use for the generation, in some countries, I think it's Iceland it is, that has a green lagoon where they have spas. They do a lot of shrimps from somehow the lukewarm water seems to breed the shrimps better, so they do that. In New Zealand, they have spas that you can go to several areas and whichever from different temperatures, so that it has a tourist attraction to it, and pools. And for where it is, you never know, you might be able to run hot water and warm the houses down in Fox's Bay and all that. So there's some spin-off to it. So, but we needed, since we are going on that route, to have a legal framework in which for it to operate. Because it's one thing to say we have geothermal and there's nothing sets out legally how it can be developed. And this is what I believe this is what this bill is doing. It also has on clause 20, the ownership. And it's worth reading. Notwithstanding anything contained in any law or title of land, geothermal resources in or under any land of whatsoever ownership or tenure are deemed to be and to always have been vested in and are subject to the control of the Crown and the Governor acting on the advice of Cabinet on behalf of the Crown, and may grant rights to a geothermal resource developer. So the energy say wherever it's found belongs to the state, in other words. So it's, whether it's on your land or my land, it is belonging to the Crown. And so that in the abundance of caution that we think that we can put up a fight against it. There is clause 34 that gives the power, the compulsory acquisition rights, so that you can acquire the land to make the zone and all that. And that will have to follow the Registered Land Act, Cap 801, so that we can go down to that. So I just thought I'd just mention those two things. Barring that, it is a welcome piece of legislation that we need to have in place, and I'm looking forward for when the sand mining one is coming, so that all these things could now be properly in a legal framework, so that we can in fact deal with and develop these various resources we have, so that we can look at coming out of granting aid, as we heard spoke of earlier. It's these type of things that we have to do, inward investment, in order to get out of granting aid. We'll continue to take the recurrent and all, whatever we can get in lump sum. And meanwhile, if we can develop these resources, Madam Speaker, we can in fact start seeing our way to prosperity. Madam Speaker, again, I support this bill and I recommend it to this House. Thank you.
I recognize the Honourable Minister of Agriculture.
Madam Speaker, thank you. I just rise in support of the bill. It has been said before, but it's a long time we've been speaking about geothermal energy, the benefits to the country, the resource and everything about it. And what I like about this is that it sets out how this should work, the establishment of a committee. But what I also like is the fact that we have not given it away. We have kept it in the House, and that the Minister is responsible, but the Governor, on the advice of Cabinet, of course, will so delegate. The other thing I'm happy for about this bill, Madam Speaker, and I hope that when we get back the information in May, that they will speak to the agricultural side of geothermal. As we know, it's good in aquaculture, the brine, of course, and the, I'll see it too, I think, in photosynthesis. So from that side of it, Madam Speaker, I rise in support of the bill, and of course for the possibilities of cheaper energy, given, of course, the situation that we're in. So again, I support the bill. I want to commend the Minister himself for getting this to the House, that framework in which we can go about the development of our geothermal resource. Thank you.
I recognize the Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Madam Speaker, I rise to endorse the statements that were already made upon this bill. I am delighted that an administrative body will be established under this act to carry forward the dream of the vision of green energy by 2030. And Madam Speaker, I pray that as this develops, that we'll be able to truncate our dependency, as we say, on British aid, and this will lead to businesses coming in to explore our opportunities and providing work for our people and our much-needed fund in our treasuries. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity.
If we don't have any additional input on the bill, I'll ask for a wrap-up, if there's one. I recognize the Honorable Deputy Premier.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would like to thank all the presenters that commented on the bill, and to just to comment on a point that the Ministry of Agriculture made. There is a committee that will be set up to look at the direct uses of geothermal energy, and I know that one of the members of the committee is somebody from the Agriculture Department, Tourism Department, for what Mr. Honorable Coroner said about tourism. So we're going to actually set up a different committee to give recommendations about what businesses and so can be done. So I'd like to thank everybody for their comments, and with that, Madam Speaker, I would like to commend the bill to the House.
It has been moved and seconded that the bill entitled Geothermal Resources Development Bill 2023 be read a second time. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. And the ayes have it. The bill will be read a second time.
Geothermal Resources Development Bill 2023.
We'll now go into committee stage to consider the bill in more details. The question is that clauses 36 to 46 now stands as part of the bill. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. And the ayes have it. Clauses 36 to 46 now stands as part of the bill.
Clauses 49
I recognize the Honorable Minister of Communications and Works.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'd like to report that the bill, Geothermal Resource Development, went to the committee stage with no changes. And I now move a motion for the third reading of the bill.
Seconder. Only the appropriation bill doesn't need a third reading second.
Minister, sorry.
Recognize the Minister of Education.
Madam Speaker, I so move second the bill shortly entitled Geothermal Resources Development Bill 2023 for the third reading.
It has been moved and seconded that the bill shortly entitled Geothermal Resource Development Bill 2023 be read a third time. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, nay. And the ayes have it. The bill will be read a third time.
Geothermal Resources Development Bill 2023.
The Geothermal Resources Development Bill has successfully passed through the Assembly.
Reports from committees.
I recognize the Honorable Parliamentary Secretary.
Yeah, just brief. Madam Speaker, it was agreed by this Honourable House that a resolution creating an Access Special Committee 2023 be established. This committee consisted of Honourable Donisel Romeo, Crown Counsel Jamil Greenaway, Chair Veronica Dorset Hector, Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, and Madam Speaker, clerked by Dr. Judith Baker and Adina Lee. Madam Speaker, it was determined that an inception report be made available to this House and recommendation for St. Patrick's be given. Madam Speaker, by the time this resolution came into being and the committee was established, time had overtaken the St. Patrick's event. I have no doubt, however, that matters pertaining to St. Patrick's will emerge during our sessions. I am pleased to report that we have started work. We've held 2 information gathering sessions, one at the Arts and Cultural Centre in person, also with viewers from Facebook with means of communicating with us via WhatsApp. We had a second such event over Radio Montserrat, and it was also aired on Facebook, and persons were available to comment by WhatsApp. We have received suggestion views from persons, and we continue to do so. Several have indicated and are amiable to appearing as witnesses or simply giving information. Honourable Romeo was unable to join us at the first information gathering due to unforeseen circumstances, but joined us by telephone at our second event on radio. We have received, as I indicated, even more feedbacks and information is still coming in. We have also received documents from the Access Department. It is noted that we are also planning our timetable to visit various groups in the community. At this juncture, the time set, Madam Speaker, appears unrealistic as we discover the technical nature and enormity of the work to be undertaken by this committee, and we must acknowledge that persons on this committee also have additional responsibilities which will make the timelines onerous and in some places unrealistic. The committee, Madam Speaker, will provide an update to this Honourable House as we further seek to marshal our resources and agree on a realistic timetable. Madam Speaker, if it pleases this House, I will take any comment, but ask that there be an extension of time so that we can provide for you a written report.
asking for an agreement by the House for an extension?
For a date to be agreed by the committee. As we have indicated, Honorable Roma is still away. We are seeking to marshal our resources, so we want to come, knowing that we've got the necessary resources we need, and also the timetable, a realistic timetable. At this time, we're still putting that timetable and asking groups what times, or indicating to them we'd like to come to them at that time. So we have not yet completed that timetable, and I therefore think it would be infantile for us to propose a date for an inception report until we have the information and can therefore ask for a extension.
Okay, so the initial resolution has some dates written in.
That's right.
I think that the total which was agreed by the House was a 3-month period.
That's
was
correct,
it?
Madam Speaker.
A 3-month period to come up with a final determination. So the first month, is it 3 months?
3 months.
I think it's 3 months, if I remember right. So the first month should have been the inception report, should have been today, and then another report, and then the final report on the 3rd month. So you're saying that 3 months, is the committee saying that 3 months is not enough?
Absolutely
And,
unrealistic,
okay,
Madam
and
Speaker.
you need
Given
more
the
time.
enormity of this task and the technical
But we
aspect.
cannot give an infinite time, so how much time are we thinking?
What I ask, Madam Speaker, is that we adjourn this matter and we can liaise with yourself, Madam Speaker, and the clerk, and indicate for you when we can put it back on the order paper and have a reasonable time for you. As I said, we're in the process of actually drafting the timetable for gaining.
Okay, so since it is a committee of the House,
Yes.
and the actual resolution itself brought the timetable to us,
That's
the House
correct.
has to agree.
To extend.
And the extension of the time, I can't do it, so the House will have to agree on the extension. So
What
it's
I do not
open
wish to
for
do,
the
Madam
House.
Speaker, is to, at this juncture, like I've said, we haven't gathered all our information. We're marshalling the resources that we require. We know the technical aspect of this, the enormity of the task, and the responsibilities by members of this committee. And so we don't wish to advance something and then advance a period of time, only to find ourselves faltering in meeting that time, when we already know, even at this juncture, before those steps have been taken, it is unrealistic.
Okay, so Standing Orders 64. Every select committee shall make a report to the council upon the matters referred to them before the end of the session in which the committee was appointed. But if the committee finds themselves unable to conclude their investigation before the end of the session, they may report to the council as such. So it's pretty much saying that after 3 months, and you realize that you haven't finished, then you report to the House and say, it's 3 months, we have not been able to, and then we can move from there.
Thank you, Madam
Is that fair enough?
Madam Speaker, if you'll allow me a second.
Okay.
Madam Speaker, while we wait to cut out the dead air, I know that I know that the motion did suggest 3 months in the first instance, so I guess there was expectation that they may need some more time. So are we saying that we should allow them to finish the 3 months and then come back? Or? Right.
Is there a, Madam Speaker, my sincere apologies. I did not hear the comment made by the Honorable Premier.
It was, Madam Speaker, it was just to substantiate what the Madam Speaker was saying, that the motion actually indicated 3 months in the first instance. So clearly, we expect you might have to come back. So the standing order, Madam Speaker, we had actually suggested that you go through your 3 months, and then near that end, you come and say, I need X amount more time, whatever it is. Or we agree another time.
Okay. So, Madam Speaker, given that we were going to bring the inception report, and I'm giving you an overview of what has transpired, this is a report, but in our view, we would have wanted to provide you with more. So is it agreed by this Honorable House that we go away and come back to you in 3 months? Yes?
Okay, so that's agreed.
That's agreed.
Yes.
That sounds reasonable, Madam Speaker.
In the remaining time that you have in your 3 months.
Yes, yes.
Yes. Okay. But as was pointed out by the Premier, the initial resolution did say in the first instance.
Yes.
So there was room in there that suggested that it may take more than 3 months.
Yes, Madam
So
Speaker.
it's understood.
Yes, Madam Speaker. Yeah. And I am sure that if needs be, we may come back to the Honorable House and ask for to be allowed to put something before the House or to advance where we're at.
Understood.
Thank you very much, Madam
I think the
Speaker.
House is in agreement. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, nay. And the ayes have it.
Madam Speaker.
The House is in agreement.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I will not abuse my privilege. I just heard my honorable friend saying, having been a former minister, he may consider a year. But we'll do that on the next occasion, Madam Speaker. Thank you so much.
We don't need time to discuss this. I'm saying, they normally need time to discuss these things. And they have to go to the diaspora. A year would have been more realistic.
Okay, so this is a report on the inquiry into an allegation of breach of privilege, contempt, or defamation in the Montserrat Legislative Assembly. And let me apologize that it has taken this long, because I do not like to prolong things in the House. I think they should be dealt with as quickly as possible, but it was beyond my control. So the background: a description of an incident which occurred at a sitting of the Montserrat Legislative Assembly on 27th of September 2022. During the debate of the Supplementary Appropriation Bill, the Honorable Premier, in responding to some points raised by the Honorable Member of the Opposition, Mr. Donaldson Romeo, made the following statement. Madam Speaker, you see the point I'm making here is that when the Honorable Member is talking about hardship, he should at least give back some of his pension money that he is getting illegally, wrongfully, to the people of Montserrat. As a legislator, he should really not be getting a pension for a legislator, but he is taking it, and when I asked him, he said people give him. There is hardship out there, people give him, so give back some. End of the statement. The Honorable Romeo raised a point of order on the grounds that the minister was inferring improper motives and saying things that were not correct at all. The Honorable Speaker asked the Honorable Premier to refrain from inferring improper motives and accusations on the Honorable Member. Not having proof to share with the Legislative Assembly, the Honorable Premier was asked to either apologize or withdraw the statement. He withdrew the term illegal and replaced it with the word wrongfully, based on the premise that his statement was factual. On the 24th of October 2022, Honorable Romeo wrote the Honorable Speaker of the Legislative Assembly, alleging that the Honorable Premier had committed a breach of parliamentary privilege, defamed him, and would like the member to apologize and withdraw his defamatory statements. He followed up with a correspondence on the 1st of November 2022, in which he stated that matter on the table is a gross abuse of privilege. Having considered the allegations, the Honorable Speaker determined that in order to resolve the matter, the best course of action was to establish a special committee called the Committee of Privileges. She appraised the House She appraised Honorable Romeo of this in the presence of the Honorable Leader of the Opposition, and he agreed to the process. The Legislative Assembly agreed to the establishment of the Special Committee on Privileges on Tuesday, 22nd November 2022. Honorable Romeo later queried the process as it relates to whether the committee would examine the legality of the matter and the term breach of privilege as opposed to the abuse of privilege. The Honorable Speaker indicated that 1, the committee was not embodied to examine the legality of his salary, but rather to look at the complaint made against the Premier. It will examine whether or not a breach of privilege occurred or if Honorable Romeo's character was defamed. And 2, as outlined in Erskine May, the Committee of Privileges is appointed to consider the specific matter relating to privileges which are referred to it by the House. The scope of any inquiry comprises all matters relevant to the matter referred. The committee is not so narrowly defined that it is a committee for a breach versus an abuse of. The committee looks at all matters pertaining to privilege and clearly states that the scope of inquiry can only include matters relevant to the complaint. She noted that in this instance, the foundation of his complaint is the statement which the Premier made in reference to his salary. Therefore, it will be part of the deliberations by the committee. The Honourable Speaker, Ms. Marva Shalina White, chairs the committee. The other members are Honourable Mr. Paul Lewis, Leader of the Opposition, Attorney at Law, Mr. George Kernan, and Chief Internal Auditor, Ms. Romalie Moraine. The committee will automatically be dissolved once the report has been submitted. The terms and references for the inquiry. The purpose of the inquiry was to examine the issues surrounding the allegations made by Honorable Romeo to determine whether there was a breach of privilege, defamation of character, and if the statement made by the Honorable Premier was in fact accurate. The committee examined the evidence before it as follows. The statement made by the Honorable Premier, they listened to it by audio clip. They got the two correspondences from Honorable Romeo to the Honorable Speaker, written correspondences from the Honorable Deputy Governor, the Honorable Attorney General, and the Accountant General, relevant areas of Erskine May, parliamentary practices and procedures, and the standing orders of the Montserrat Legislative Assembly. Having examined the evidence, the committee took the decision that it had sufficient evidence to make a determination as to the validity of the allegations. In seeking to determine whether a breach of privilege or defamation had taken place during the November 22nd sitting of the Assembly, the committee paid particular attention to the meaning of a breach of privilege and contempt. Privileges are the sum of certain rights enjoyed by the Parliament without which they could not discharge their functions. Examples of this are freedom of speech and freedom from arrest, which are nonetheless subject to the standing orders. When any of these rights and immunities are disregarded or attacked, the offense is called a breach of privilege. The term breach of privilege properly applies only to offenses against a specific privilege. Contempt, these are actions which obstruct or impede the Parliament in performing its function, or are offenses against its authority or dignity, such as disobedience to its legitimate commands or libels upon itself, its members, or its officers, reflections upon the character of the Speaker, or accusations of partiality in the discharge of their duties, attempts to intimidate a member in their parliamentary duties by threats, or attempts to molest a member on account of their conduct in Parliament are other examples of contempt. The committee in its deliberations noted that the Legislative Assembly has a right to bring issues to the attention of the public. 2, examined the statement made by the Honourable Premier from the perspective of the subject area under which the statement fell, and whether or not it fell within the purview of the Montserrat Legislative Assembly. 3, determined that the subject area is public funds, which is a legitimate area of discourse in the Legislative Assembly. Since public funds fall within the purview of the Legislative Assembly, it therefore means that discussion on this topic is protected under parliamentary privilege. Noted that there are two competing technical considerations. On the one hand, the Attorney General and the Office of the Deputy Governor that deals with pensions agree that the payment is appropriate, while on the other hand, a prima facie court case indicates that the payment is not appropriate. The committee did not make any findings on whether the remuneration received by the honorable member is appropriate. The committee took into consideration the proximity of members to the process in the Legislative Assembly and whether or not the member had an opportunity to correct the statement made for the records. The committee found that in the Montserrat Legislative Assembly, Honorable Romeo is very close to the process and could have clarified the issue of whether or not he was paid correctly within that setting. While a certain standard of behavior is expected in the Legislative Assembly, behavior that falls below the expected standard does not in itself equate to a breach of privilege. The subject matter of the debate involved public funds, and the matter raised in the statement was an ancillary matter which should have been introduced by means of a substantive motion. Standing Order 36 governs that the conduct of a specific person, including members of the Legislative Assembly. A point of order raised on this ground would therefore have been valid. This, however, does not amount to a breach of parliamentary privilege or contempt. The statement made by the Honorable Premier did not in any way interfere with any of the unique rights and privileges accorded to the parliamentarian. Neither did it obstruct the parliamentarian or impede in its function. Based on this, the statement did not amount to a breach of privilege or of contempt. Notwithstanding this finding, the committee observed that Honorable Premier, as Minister of Finance, is in a position to investigate and address the issue related to the remuneration of the honorable member, and it would have been best to do this outside of the sitting of the Legislative Assembly. I would also like to add that as the members of the Legislative Assembly, we are expected to conduct ourselves in a manner befitting the roles as leaders and parliamentarians. Also, while freedom of speech is a privilege afforded to members, it is not one that should be misused. There is a level of decorum and integrity which must be observed in all forms of speech within the Assembly. Therefore, I strongly recommend to the members to strive to operate in a manner which would enhance the Parliament and not bring it into disrepute. That's the end of the findings brought by the report on the inquiry into the breach by the Honourable Member.
Ministerial statements, government notices, unofficial notices, questions, other business, adjournment.
I recognize the Honourable Premier.
Madam Speaker, I rise to move a motion for the adjournment of this Honourable House. But in doing so, Madam Speaker, I wish to thank members for for participating in this long 2-day sessions of this Parliament. I think we need more of this, and I move a motion for adjournment. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
I recognize the Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Madam Speaker, I rise to second the motion for an adjournment, sign a die, and also, Madam Speaker, to agree with the gratitude expressed by the Honourable Premier to all the members of the Honourable House and all the others who participated to make this session, Madam Speaker, what it resulted in, with special thanks as well, Madam Speaker, to the members or to the work employees of the Montserrat Cultural Centre. They're all women and had to work extremely long hours, especially last evening, Madam Speaker. And so, on behalf of this Honourable House, and I know the Honourable Speaker would have liked me to do that as well, Madam Speaker. So I'm adding that to the motion. If it pleases you, Madam Speaker,
It has been moved and seconded that this Honourable House now stands adjourned. All those in favour say aye. All those opposed nay. And the ayes have it. This Honourable House now stands adjourned.